Books, our secret superpowers. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have a secret power? Maybe to see through walls, or to know what someone else is thinking? What if I told you that you already hold a kind of secret superpower in your hands? One that can change how you see the entire world. It's not magic, not really. It's something much more real. It's a book. Think about it this way. What does a superpower do? It lets you do things you couldn't do before. It gives you an advantage. Books work in a very similar way. When you open a book, you're not just reading words on a page. You're stepping into another person's mind. You're seeing the world through their eyes. You're learning things they learned, feeling things they felt, and thinking thoughts they thought. This isn't just information. It's a way to expand who you are, to understand more than you ever could on your own. Books give you knowledge, and knowledge, truly, is power. It's the power to understand, the power to question, the power to imagine. For a long time, throughout history, some people have known just how powerful books are. They understood that if you could control what people read, you could control what they thought. If you could stop certain ideas from spreading, you could keep things the way they were. That's why, sometimes, people in power tried to ban books. They weren't afraid of the paper or the ink. They were afraid of the ideas inside, the different ways of seeing the world that those books offered. They were afraid of the questions those ideas might make people ask. Imagine your mind is like a house. Most of the time, you look out your own windows, seeing only what's right in front of you. Books are like extra windows, or even like a telescope or a microscope. One book might be a window looking far back into history, letting you see how people lived centuries ago. Another might be a telescope, showing you distant galaxies or future possibilities. Yet another might be a microscope, letting you zoom in on tiny details of human emotions or the hidden patterns in nature. Each book adds a new view, a new way to understand the complex world around you. If someone bans a book, it's like they're trying to board up one of those windows, or take away your telescope. They want to limit what you can see, what you can learn, and what you can explore. They want you to stay focused only on what they want you to see. But here's the amazing thing about this secret superpower. It's incredibly hard to get rid of. Even when books are banned, the ideas they carry often find a way to survive. They whisper from person to person. They pop up in new stories. They inspire new ways of thinking. Because an idea, once it's out there, can never truly be destroyed. It becomes part of the shared human experience. So, when you read, you're not just reading a story or learning a fact. You are connecting to something much bigger, something that has shaped minds and changed societies for centuries. You are building your own unique set of superpowers, one page at a time, making yourself stronger, more thoughtful, and more ready to truly see the world for all that it is. Why some books get kicked out. Have you ever stopped to wonder why some things simply disappear? Not like a lost set of keys, but like a certain television show suddenly taken off the air, or a type of game no longer allowed at school. Sometimes, it's because someone, somewhere, decided it wasn't good for people to see, hear, or do. When we talk about books getting kicked out, we're talking about something much deeper than just misplacing one. It means a book is intentionally removed from a library shelf, taken out of a classroom lesson, or even stopped from being published in the first place. The goal is to make it harder, or impossible, for people to read it. This isn't about a book getting old or damaged. It's about a choice, a deliberate decision by a person, or a group, to prevent others from reading something. They might believe the book contains dangerous ideas, or is somehow not appropriate for certain readers, especially young people. For a very long time, through history, people have tried to control what others think. And one of the most powerful ways to do that has always been to control what they read. Imagine a time when news traveled slowly, and books were the main way new ideas spread across towns and countries. If you could control the books, you had a lot of power over people's minds. So, leaders, whether kings, governments, or religious groups, often saw certain books as a threat. They might see them as a threat to their rules, their beliefs, or their way of life. Think about your mind like a garden. You plant seeds there, and those seeds grow into ideas, into understanding the world. Books are like new, different kinds of seeds. They can introduce you to plants you've never seen, colors you never imagined. But some people want to make sure only certain kinds of seeds get planted in the garden of your mind. They fear that if too many different kinds of seeds grow, the garden might become wild. Or it might grow plants they don't understand or can't control. This fear is often at the heart of why books get removed. The people who ban books often genuinely believe they are protecting others. They might think a book has ideas that are too scary, too confusing, or even just plain wrong. They might worry it will make people think bad thoughts or question things they shouldn't. Perhaps the book talks about parts of history that are uncomfortable, or explores feelings that are difficult, or tells stories from viewpoints that are very different from what they know. Consider a simple example. A family might decide not to have certain types of movies playing in their living room. They might believe some movies are too violent, or have language that isn't right for younger children. That's a personal choice within a family. But when a book is banned, it's like someone deciding that movies shouldn't be available in any video store for anyone to rent, even adults. It goes beyond guiding choice. It's an attempt to remove the choice entirely for everyone. It's not just about protecting. It's about controlling access to ideas. The reasons behind banning are complex. Sometimes it stems from a sincere desire to shield young people from harsh realities or mature themes. Other times, it's about upholding community values or making sure everyone thinks alike. It can be born from discomfort with new ideas or fear of anything that challenges the way things have always been. But here's the quiet truth about a book that gets kicked out. It means someone believed its ideas were so powerful, so potentially disruptive, that they had to be silenced. It makes us pause and wonder what ideas were considered too big, too true, or too different for us to encounter. When a book is removed, it's not just a physical thing disappearing from a shelf. It's like trying to stop a conversation before it even begins, keeping certain stories from ever reaching our ears, or preventing a new way of seeing the world from ever sprouting in our minds. It reminds us that every time a book is challenged, or quietly taken away, a window of understanding might be closing for someone, somewhere. And that quiet closing of a window can have a powerful impact on what we learn and who we become. The fight for stories. Imagine a world where you could only read books chosen for you by someone else, not by your parents or your teacher, but by a stranger with power. What if that stranger decided certain stories were too challenging, too different, or even too true? What would we lose if we couldn't read all the stories humans have written? This idea brings us to something important. The fight for stories. It's a quiet, ongoing battle that has happened throughout history, and it's still happening today. At its heart, this fight is about who controls knowledge, who decides what ideas are okay, and what we are allowed to imagine. When we talk about books being banned, it means someone, somewhere, has tried to stop people from reading them. They might try to remove books from libraries, classrooms, or even stop them from being published at all. Why would anyone want to do this? Well, stories are powerful. A book isn't just paper and ink. It's a window into another mind, another time, another way of seeing the world. Books carry ideas, feelings, and truths that can challenge the way things are. They can make people think new thoughts, question old rules, and feel empathy for lives very different from their own. People in power or groups with strong beliefs sometimes fear these new ideas. They might worry that certain books will make people rebellious or change their minds about important things. So, they try to silence these stories, hoping to keep things the same. Think about it like this. Imagine your mind is a garden. To make that garden healthy and full, you need all sorts of different seeds. Some seeds grow into tall trees, some into bright flowers, and some into tough, useful plants. Each one adds something special. Books are like those seeds. Each story, each idea, helps your mind garden grow richer, more interesting, and stronger. Now imagine someone comes along and says, no, you can only plant these 3 types of seeds. All the others are dangerous. If you only plant those 3, your garden might look neat, but it won't be as vibrant, as diverse, or as resilient. It won't be as full of life. Banning books is like trying to limit the seeds you can plant in your mind. It keeps you from seeing the full, beautiful variety of thoughts and experiences that make up our world. This fight for stories shows us something deep about what it means to be human. We are creatures of curiosity. We want to learn, to explore, to understand. We learn not just from what agrees with us, but also from what challenges us, what makes us pause and think. When a book is banned, it's not just that one book being removed. It's a piece of human experience, a voice, a perspective that is being silenced. And when voices are silenced, we all lose something important. But here's the thing about stories. They are incredibly resilient. Like a strong current flowing beneath the surface, ideas often find a way to break through, even when they are suppressed. The human desire to share and receive stories is a powerful force. Even when books are hidden or burned, the ideas they contain often live on, passed from person to person, finding new forms until they can openly bloom once more. So, when we learn about banned books, we aren't just learning about censorship. We're learning about the enduring power of human thought, the courage of writers, and the simple, profound right of every person to read, to think, and to choose their own stories. When grown-ups say no to books, have you ever stopped to wonder why a grown-up might say no to a book? Not just a book that's too advanced for you, but one they think no one should read. It's a deep question, and it's a story as old as books themselves. When grown-ups say no to books, often they're not trying to destroy the physical book. Instead, they're trying to control the ideas inside it. They might try to remove it from a library shelf or stop it from being taught in a classroom. This act is called banning or challenging a book. It means someone believes a book's message is harmful, inappropriate, or simply wrong for its readers, especially young people. Why does this happen? Well, people ban books for many reasons, but usually, it comes from a place of fear or a strong desire to protect. Sometimes, grown-ups worry that certain books might introduce ideas that are too complex, too upsetting, or too different from what they believe is right. They might think a book has language that's not polite, or shows situations that are too grown up for younger readers. Other times, the fear runs deeper. They might worry a book will challenge long-held beliefs or make people question things they've always accepted. It's a way of trying to keep the world tidy and predictable, to guard against anything that might cause discomfort or change. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to learn about the world, and someone hands you a telescope. But instead of letting you look at everything in the night sky, they cover up half the lens. They might say, "Oh, those parts of the sky are too dark," or "You don't need to see those stars right now." They believe they're protecting you from seeing something bad, or something they think you're not ready for. But what happens? You only get half the view. You miss out on understanding the whole universe. You might never learn about new galaxies or discover a new way of looking at the stars. In the same way, when books are banned, it's like covering up parts of the telescope. You don't get the full picture of human experience. You don't get to wrestle with difficult ideas, or see the world from someone else's shoes. These books, even the ones that make us uncomfortable, often hold important truths, or at least important questions. They might tell stories of people who are different, or shine a light on parts of history that are hard to face. They might explore feelings or situations that feel real, even if they're messy. History is full of examples where people tried to control what others read. In ancient times, powerful rulers would burn scrolls they didn't like. During different wars, governments would ban books that expressed different political ideas. This desire to control information often comes from a deep belief that one way of thinking is the only correct way. But the world and people are complex. There isn't just one story or one truth. When we prevent ourselves or others from reading certain books, we are, in a way, limiting our own growth. We are saying that some ideas are off limits, that some parts of the human story are not worth knowing. But true understanding often comes from facing the uncomfortable, from stepping into other perspectives, and from thinking for ourselves. It's in the quiet act of reading, of turning a page, that we can find courage, empathy, and the tools to truly understand the vast, complicated, and beautiful world around us. Books, even the challenging ones, are often guides in this journey, not dangers to avoid. Ideas too big to be banned. Have you ever tried to catch a thought? Not just a simple fact like the sky is blue, but a truly big idea. Something that makes you see the world in a new way, like a light suddenly turned on in a dark room. It's hard to grab onto, isn't it? It floats, it changes, it moves from one mind to another. Here's the thing about some ideas. They are simply too vast, too powerful, too fundamental to be contained. Imagine trying to ban the idea of gravity. You could write a law saying gravity doesn't exist. You could burn every science textbook that talks about it. You could even punish people for saying it's real. But if you drop your pencil, what happens? It falls. Every single time. The idea of gravity, the truth of it, would still be there, working quietly, undeniably. This is what we mean when we talk about ideas too big to be banned. They are the truths, the insights, the fundamental understandings that resonate deeply within us. People might try to suppress them. They might try to silence the books that carry them. But these ideas are not just words on a page. They are sparks in the mind, embers in the human heart. Think about a time long ago when most people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. It was a common, accepted idea. Then, some brave thinkers, like Nicolaus Copernicus and later Galileo Galilei, shared a different idea. What if the Earth actually moved around the sun? This was a radical, scary thought for many. Powerful people, including religious leaders, saw this idea as dangerous. It challenged everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. They tried to ban books that shared this new view. They put Galileo on trial and forced him to say his ideas were wrong. But here's the problem. The Earth kept spinning around the sun. The truth of that idea was too powerful. It couldn't be stopped, no matter how many books were hidden or how many people were silenced. It spread slowly, through whispers, through new observations, until it became something everyone understood. Or consider the idea of human freedom and equality. For centuries, many societies were built on the idea that some people were naturally superior to others. Kings ruled with absolute power. Slavery was practiced widely. Women had very few rights. Books that dared to suggest all people were equal, or that ordinary people should have a say in their own government, were seen as incredibly dangerous. They were burned, banned, and their authors were often punished. But the idea of freedom, of every person having worth and dignity, kept flickering. It was an idea so deeply connected to the human spirit that it refused to die. People fought for it, generation after generation. It traveled across oceans, inspiring revolutions and movements for civil rights. You can try to hold down a powerful truth, but it will always find cracks to escape through. An idea, especially a truly profound one, isn't something you can physically lock away. It lives in conversations, in shared understanding, in the quiet realization within each person. You can ban a book, yes, but you cannot ban the thought that springs from reading it. You cannot ban the question it makes you ask. You cannot ban the new way of seeing the world that it offers. These ideas are like water. You can try to hold them in your hands, but they will always find a way to slip through your fingers and nourish the ground beneath. They are like the wind. You can't see them, but you can feel their incredible power as they move through the world, shaping everything in their path. So, when we talk about banned books, we're not just talking about paper and ink. We are talking about the incredible, often unstoppable, power of ideas. We are talking about how some truths are so fundamental, so deeply connected to what it means to be human, that no power, no ban, no amount of fear can truly extinguish them. They may be challenged, they may be hidden for a time, but like a seed beneath the earth, they carry the undeniable promise of growth, waiting for the right moment to push through the soil and reach for the light. It's a quiet, profound hope, knowing that the most powerful ideas often find their way simply because they are true. The Forbidden Library. Have you ever wondered what makes an idea so powerful that someone would try to hide it away? Imagine, for a moment, a special kind of library. Not one with dusty shelves you can visit, but one that exists more in our minds. A collection of books that some people, at some point, didn't want others to read. This is the idea of the Forbidden Library. It's not a secret room filled with ancient texts. It's a way of talking about books that have been banned, removed from schools, or even burned throughout history. Think about that. A book, Just ink on paper, holding ideas so strong, so challenging, that someone felt they had to make sure no one else could read them. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of power does a book hold? What kind of truth might it carry, that someone would fear it so much? Here's the thing. People ban books for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's because the ideas in the book go against what a government believes is right. Sometimes it's because the book challenges old traditions or religious views. Other times, it's because the words describe life in a way that makes some adults uncomfortable, especially if those words are about difficult or sensitive topics. But in most cases, banning a book is really about trying to control ideas. It's about saying, this way of thinking is not allowed. This has happened throughout history, in almost every part of the world. Think about how, for a long time, people believed the Earth was the center of the universe. It felt true, right? We saw the sun move across the sky. But then, scientists like Galileo came along with new ideas, new evidence, suggesting the Earth actually goes around the sun. This was a revolutionary idea for its time, and some powerful people felt threatened by it. They didn't want these new ideas spreading, because it changed everything they thought they knew. They tried to silence these ideas, just like people try to silence books. It's like when you're used to doing something one way, and someone suggests a completely different way. Maybe it's a new way to solve a math problem, or a different approach to a team sport. At first, you might resist it because it's unfamiliar. It challenges your comfort zone. For some people, challenging ideas in books can feel like that, but on a much bigger scale. They might believe that if certain ideas spread, it could change society in ways they don't like, or make people question things they want everyone to accept without thought. But here's what happened, and why it matters. The ideas usually found a way out anyway. Books are stubborn things. Even when they're banned, their messages often spread, passed secretly from person to person, or remembered and retold. The Forbidden Library reminds us of something very important. Ideas are hard to truly destroy. They have a way of lingering, of inspiring new thoughts, even across centuries. So, when we talk about a forbidden library, we're not just talking about old books locked away. We're talking about the enduring strength of ideas. We're thinking about why some truths are seen as dangerous, and why it's so important that we, as readers and thinkers, have the freedom to explore all kinds of ideas, even the ones that challenge us or make us think differently. The true power of these books isn't that they were forbidden, but that they kept speaking, even when silenced, whispering their thoughts to anyone brave enough to listen. What happens when books disappear? Imagine waking up one day, and your favorite storybook is just gone. Not just lost in your room, but erased from every library, every store, every memory. What would that feel like? That feeling of something cherished simply vanishing gives us a glimpse into a larger question. What happens when books disappear? When we talk about books disappearing, it's rarely because they just get lost. More often, it's because someone decided those books shouldn't be read. This is called banning a book, a historical practice that still happens today. When books are banned, it means certain ideas, stories, or facts are taken away. It's like silencing a voice or many voices, so their message can't be heard. Think about it like this. Imagine your family has a really old photo album. It has pictures of your grandparents when they were young, and maybe even your great-grandparents. It shows how your family grew, what they did, how they changed. Now, imagine someone ripped out all the pictures of certain people, or entire years. A big part of your family story would just be missing. You wouldn't know that history. Your understanding of your family would be incomplete. Books are like those photo albums, but for all of humanity. They hold the memories, the ideas, the struggles, and the triumphs of people past and present. When a book disappears, it's like ripping pages out of humanity's album. We lose different viewpoints. We might not learn about mistakes made in the past. We might not hear from people who think differently than us, or who come from different places and experiences. Throughout history, powerful groups have tried to remove books they didn't like. Sometimes it was because the books challenged their power, or offered new ways of seeing the world that seemed threatening. Ancient libraries were burned, vast collections of knowledge lost forever. Governments and leaders have often forbidden books that made people question things, or imagine a different way of life. This isn't just about old dusty books. It's about the very ideas they contain. When books vanish, our understanding of the world becomes smaller, less rich. It's like trying to put together a complex puzzle, but many important pieces are missing. You can't see the full picture, and you might even build it wrong. This can make it harder for us to solve new problems, because we don't have all the lessons from before. It can also make us less empathetic, because we don't get to hear different stories or step into someone else's shoes through a book. The absence of books leaves a hollow space, not just on shelves, but in our minds. It means we might never know certain ideas existed, never consider certain arguments, never feel connected to someone else's experience. It narrows our view of what is possible, what is true, and what is valuable. So, when books disappear, it's not just paper gone. It's the vanishing of ideas, of understanding, of different ways to see the world. This is a quiet loss, but a deep one. Books carry echoes of human experience, joy, struggle, triumph. When they vanish, those echoes fade. Protecting books means protecting the full range of human ideas. It means allowing future generations to learn from everything that came before, not just a selected part. It reminds us that every voice, every story, has value, especially when it's different from our own. Truths that made people uncomfortable. Have you ever felt a strange, squirmy feeling when someone tells you something that just doesn't quite fit with what you thought was true? It's like a puzzle piece that seems out of place, yet it clearly belongs. That slight unease, that little bit of mental friction, that's often what happens when we face an uncomfortable truth. An uncomfortable truth isn't just a fact you dislike, like extra homework. It's a deeper kind of information, or an idea that directly challenges what you believe deep down. It asks you to think about changing your mind, or to consider that something you thought was totally correct might actually be wrong, and that can be truly unsettling for anyone. Our minds naturally prefer things to be clear and predictable. We build a picture of how the world works based on what we learn. When a new idea comes along that shakes up this picture, it can feel like the ground is moving beneath our feet. We might feel confused, even a little defensive. It's a very human reaction. No one likes to feel mistaken, or like their whole understanding of things is flawed. For centuries, people who introduced ideas that went against widely accepted truths often faced great resistance, sometimes even danger. Think about a simple example. Imagine you've always believed a certain candy is perfectly healthy because your older cousin ate it. Then, a science class explains that this candy is full of sugar and artificial ingredients. Hearing this can be uncomfortable. It challenges your past belief, and maybe a habit. You might want to disagree at first. But then, if you truly listen, you realize the new information is accurate. That shift means letting go of an old idea and accepting a new reality. Now, consider something much bigger, like a major scientific discovery. For centuries, most people believed the Earth was the unmoving center of the universe. It seemed obvious. The sun and stars appeared to revolve around us. This idea was connected to their religious beliefs and their view of humanity's place. Then, astronomers like Galileo Galilei observed the planets and stars. Their work led them to an astonishing and very uncomfortable truth. It was actually the Earth that revolved around the sun. This wasn't just a different science fact. It was a radical idea. It challenged deeply held beliefs about the universe and humanity's importance. Many people refused to believe it. Galileo himself faced serious trouble for sharing this truth, because it was so unsettling and demanded a complete change in how people understood their world. Many banned books contain these kinds of uncomfortable truths. They might shine a light on parts of history we'd rather forget, or expose unfair systems people in power want to hide. Sometimes, these books challenge authority by criticizing governments or social rules. For example, a book might argue that all people, regardless of background, deserve equal rights, even when that idea was unpopular. These books are more than just stories. They act like powerful mirrors, reflecting parts of society that some find hard to look at. They invite us to question, to think deeply, and sometimes to change our minds or our actions. And that's often why they are banned, because truly facing these truths requires courage and can be very hard work. But here's the important thing about uncomfortable truths. While they might cause us unease at first, they often lead to the most important growth and progress. Just as realizing the Earth moves helped humanity understand space better, embracing challenging ideas allows us to become deeper thinkers. When we are brave enough to sit with that uncomfortable feeling, to truly listen, and to let a new understanding settle in, we grow. We learn to see the world not just as we wish it were, but in all its complex reality. This openness helps us evolve, not just as individuals, but as a more understanding and just society, because sometimes the very things that make us squirm are precisely the things that help us understand ourselves and the world in a richer, more meaningful way. Stories that spook the powerful. Have you ever wondered why a book, just a collection of words on pages, could make someone powerful feel nervous? It seems strange, doesn't it? A story, a poem, even a simple tale, how could something so quiet, so seemingly harmless, cause a tremor in the halls of power? Here's the thing. Stories are more than just entertainment. They carry ideas. They plant seeds in our minds. And sometimes, those seeds grow into something truly strong, something that can even challenge the way things are. Imagine a secret. When you share a secret with just one friend, it's small. But what if that secret, that new idea, suddenly spread to hundreds, then thousands, then millions? What if it made everyone think a little differently, question a little more? That's the power of a book. That's why powerful people, people who want things to stay exactly as they are, sometimes get scared of them. For centuries, across different lands and times, people in charge have known this truth. They've understood that ideas, once shared, are hard to control. They've seen how a story can open someone's eyes to unfairness, or show them a different way to live, or even inspire them to demand change. Think about a game you play with friends. What if someone suddenly suggested a brand new rule that made the game completely different, maybe even fairer for everyone? But it meant some players who used to win all the time wouldn't anymore. That new rule, that new idea, could be unsettling for those who liked the old way because it benefited them. History is filled with moments where a book, or the ideas within it, threatened to upset the order. Rulers, governments, religious leaders, they've all tried to silence voices they feared. They banned books, burned them, even punished those who dared to write or read them. Why? Because these stories often told truths that were inconvenient. They showed how power could be misused, or how people were suffering, or how things could be organized in a better, more just way. These books didn't just tell a tale, they held a mirror up to society, forcing people to see things they might have ignored. And sometimes, the reflection wasn't pretty for those sitting in high places. It's like when you're building something complex, say a tall tower out of blocks. You've got it just right, and it feels stable. Then someone comes along and quietly points out one block that's wobbly, one part that isn't quite strong. That single observation, that simple truth, can make the whole tower feel less secure. It might even make you nervous that the tower could fall. In the same way, a book can point out the wobbly blocks in a society, making those who built and control that society feel their power might crumble. These banned books are not always about overthrowing governments directly. Sometimes, they simply ask deep questions. They might explore complex feelings, or show how different people live, or imagine a future that looks very unlike the present. But even these quiet explorations can be seen as dangerous. Why? Because they encourage thinking. They encourage empathy. They encourage people to use their own minds instead of simply accepting what they are told. And a population that thinks for itself is much harder to control. So, when we look at books that were once feared and forbidden, we're not just looking at old stories. We're looking at the very moments when ideas clashed with power. We're seeing where the deepest questions were asked, where the uncomfortable truths were spoken. These books, though silent now on the shelves, still whisper of courage and defiance. They remind us of the quiet, enduring strength of words. They show us that the ideas powerful people tried to bury are often the ones that eventually rise, teaching us about fairness, freedom, and the incredible power of a thoughtful mind. They teach us that fear of a story reveals more about the powerful than it does about the story itself. Reading between the lines of a band, have you ever thought about why some ideas are allowed to spread while others are shut down? It's a bit like a game of hide and seek, but with thoughts and stories. When a book is banned, it's not just about the pages being taken off a shelf. It's about a message being stopped, and understanding why that message is stopped is a big part of reading between the lines of a ban. So what does it mean to read between the lines? It means looking deeper than what's obvious. It's like when you're watching a movie and you notice not just what the characters say, but how they say it, or what they don't say at all. You're looking for the hidden meaning, the unstated truth. With banned books, it means asking, what is so powerful about this book that someone felt the need to silence it? What ideas did it hold that were considered dangerous? Think of it this way. A ban isn't just about the book. It's also about the people doing the banning. When someone tries to hide a book, they are often showing you their own fears, their own beliefs, and what they don't want you to know or think about. It's like when you see a shadow. The shadow itself isn't the real thing, but it tells you a lot about the object that's blocking the light. A ban casts a shadow, and by looking at that shadow, we can learn about the power that cast it. Throughout history, people in power have often tried to control what others read and think. Why? Because ideas are incredibly powerful. A new idea can challenge old ways of doing things. It can make people question what they believe is true. It can inspire people to seek fairness or freedom. For example, in the past, some rulers didn't want their people to read about democracy or human rights, because those ideas might make people want to change the government. They banned books that talked about these things, hoping to keep everyone from getting those thoughts. But here's the thing. Ideas are hard to stop. Like water flowing around a rock. They find a way. Imagine you have a puzzle, but a few important pieces are missing. You can still see parts of the picture, but it's incomplete. Those missing pieces are like the banned books. Someone took them out, hoping you wouldn't see the full picture. But knowing pieces are missing actually makes you more curious. You start to guess what those pieces might show. You try to imagine the whole image based on what you can see. That's what it means to read between the lines. You're trying to understand the full picture, even when parts of it are hidden from you. You look at why those pieces might have been removed. When we study banned books, we aren't just learning about the stories they tell. We're also learning about the times they were written in, about the struggles people faced, and about the brave authors who dared to share difficult truths. It tells us about freedom and control. It reminds us that our ability to think for ourselves, to question, and to learn from many different viewpoints is truly precious. Every ban, in a strange way, becomes an invitation to look closer, to ask more questions, and to truly understand the deeper meaning of ideas. The power of a single story. Have you ever met someone new and heard one thing about them? Maybe someone said, "Oh, they're really quiet," or "They're amazing at basketball." And then, for a little while, that one thing becomes the whole story in your head about that person. You might think, okay, that's who they are, quiet, or that's their whole identity, basketball player. But then you get to know them better, and you discover so much more. They might be quiet in big groups but super chatty with their close friends, or the basketball player might also be a talented artist, a great cook, or someone who loves to read old books. Here's the thing. That first simple idea you had, that's what we call a single story. It's when you hear just one idea or one piece of information about a person, a place, or even a whole group of people, and you let that one piece stand in for everything else. It's like having only one piece of a giant jigsaw puzzle. You can see a bit of color, maybe a small part of a picture, but you don't see the full image. You don't see how all the pieces connect. Historically, this happens a lot. Think about how different countries or groups of people have been described. Sometimes, in old stories or news, only one side of a conflict is told, or only one type of person from a whole country is shown. Maybe a certain group is always shown as poor, or always shown as violent, or always shown as happy and simple. When you only hear that one story, it becomes the truth in your mind. It's hard to imagine anything else. And this can make it really hard to understand the full, rich reality of who people truly are or what places are actually like. Consider something you know well, like your school. If someone only heard stories about one specific sports team, they might think your school is only about athletics. They wouldn't know about the amazing art classes, the science lab projects, the drama club, or the friendly teachers. Their single story of your school would be too narrow. It wouldn't show the whole picture. This applies to everything around us. Imagine you're learning about a faraway land. If all the pictures you ever saw were of deserts, you might think the entire country is just sand and nothing else. But what if that same country also has towering mountains, bustling cities, and green forests? The single story of desert hides all the other true parts. When we let a single story take over, it limits our empathy. It makes it harder to connect with others because we're not seeing them as full, complicated human beings. We're seeing them as that one simple idea. So, why does this matter? Because a single story can steal a lot from us. It can steal our chance to really understand, to really connect. It can make us believe things that aren't completely true, or even things that are unfair. It stops us from seeing the amazing variety and depth that exists in the world and in people. It makes the world seem smaller, less interesting, and sometimes a little bit scary or confusing. But there's a quiet power in recognizing this. When you know about the danger of a single story, you can choose to look for more. You can ask questions. You can listen closely to different voices. You can seek out other pieces of the puzzle. It reminds us that everyone, every place, every event is made up of many layers, many experiences, and many different truths. And the more truths we gather, the richer and clearer our own understanding becomes. It's about being open, staying curious, and knowing that the real story is always bigger and more beautiful than any single part of it. Books that rock the boat. Have you ever thought about why some ideas make people really uncomfortable? Why would someone try to stop you from reading a book or even thinking about certain things? Here's the thing. Sometimes books carry ideas so powerful they can actually rock the boat. It's a phrase that means they disturb the peace, shake things up, or make people question what they thought was true or right. When a book rocks the boat, it means it challenges the way things are. It might present a new way of looking at the world, or suggest that old rules aren't fair, or even reveal truths that some people want to keep hidden. Imagine a calm lake, still and peaceful. If you throw a big stone into it, it sends ripples all the way across. A book that rocks the boat is like that stone. Its ideas create ripples, unsettling the surface of society and making waves. And sometimes those waves are big enough to scare people in power. For hundreds of years, people in charge, whether kings, religious leaders, or governments, often preferred for things to stay just as they were. They liked order and predictability. New ideas, especially those that went against what everyone believed or what the leaders taught, felt like a threat. They worried that if people started thinking for themselves or questioning old ways, their power might slip away. So, one way to stop these new ideas from spreading was to try and silence them. And often, that meant banning the books that carried them. Think about someone like Galileo Galilei. Hundreds of years ago, most people believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, and the sun, stars, and planets revolved around it. This was what everyone was taught, and it was even supported by powerful religious groups at the time. But Galileo, using his telescope and careful observations, realized something different. He saw evidence that the Earth actually moved around the sun. This idea, called heliocentrism, completely rocked the boat. It wasn't just a scientific disagreement. It was a challenge to how people understood their place in the universe and to the authority of those who taught the old view. His books and writings were seen as dangerous, as upsetting the established order. So, his books were banned, and he was even put on trial. His ideas were true, but they were deeply unsettling to many at the time. A book that rocks the boat makes us think. It might make us feel a little uncomfortable at first, like when you hear a new song that sounds really different, or when a friend tells you something that changes your whole perspective on a situation. That feeling of discomfort is often a sign that your mind is stretching, taking in something new. It's a sign that old beliefs are being challenged, making room for new understanding. And here's why that matters. Often, the books that rock the boat the most, the ones that were once banned or feared, are the very ones that eventually helped humanity move forward. They pushed us to question, to learn, and to grow. The act of banning a book often serves as a strange kind of badge of honor for it. It can mean that the book's ideas are so powerful, so thought-provoking, that someone out there found them too challenging to be read freely. So, when you hear about a book that was once banned, it's a good idea to wonder, what powerful idea was it carrying? What boat was it trying to rock? Why free speech matters. Even in books, have you ever wondered what it would be like if you could only read books that everyone already agreed with? What if someone else decided which stories you were allowed to hear? Or which ideas you were allowed to think about? It might seem safe, but here's the thing. It would actually make the world and your own mind much smaller. This is where the idea of free speech comes in. It's a really big idea, but it's also very simple at its heart. Free speech means you have the right to express your thoughts and feelings, even if they are different or unpopular. It's not just about what you say out loud, it's also about what you write, what art you create, or what music you play. For a long time, in many places around the world, powerful people or governments decided what ideas were okay. If you disagreed, you could get into serious trouble. But over time, people realized how important it was to be able to think and speak freely. In our own country, this idea was so important that it was written right into the very first rules of our government, in something called the First Amendment. It's a promise that we can share our ideas without fear of being silenced by the government. But why does this matter so much? Especially when we talk about books. Imagine you and your friends are trying to solve a really tough problem, like how to clean up a local park that's full of litter. If only one person's idea was allowed, even if it seemed like a good one at first, you might miss something. What if someone else has a totally different idea? Maybe one that sounds a little strange at first, but turns out to be amazing. You'd want to hear all the different plans, right? You'd talk about them, think about them, and maybe even combine parts of different ideas to find the very best solution. That's how progress happens. That's how we learn and grow. Books are like those different ideas for cleaning the park. Each book offers a unique way of thinking, a different experience, or a new perspective. When a book is banned, it's like someone is saying, "No, we don't want to hear that idea. We don't want you to think about that particular story or point of view." They might believe they are protecting you from something they see as uncomfortable or even wrong. But really, what they are doing is limiting your chance to think for yourself, to question things, and to grow stronger in your own understanding of the world. Our minds, like our bodies, need a variety of things to be healthy and strong. If you only eat one type of food, you won't get all the nutrients you need. In the same way, if you only read books that present ideas you already agree with, or ideas that are considered safe, your mind won't get to explore all the different ways of seeing the world. It won't get the chance to wrestle with challenging thoughts or truly understand people who are different from you. So, free speech isn't just about being loud or arguing. It's about creating a wide open space for all kinds of ideas to exist, to be looked at, and to be understood. Books are a huge part of that open space. They let us travel to different minds and different worlds without ever leaving our chair. By reading widely, even books that challenge us or make us think hard, we build a bigger, stronger, and more flexible understanding of the world and ourselves. We learn how to think, not just what to think. And that's why, when we protect the freedom of books, we are protecting the very freedom of our own minds to explore, to question, and to grow into wise and understanding people. The secret life of a banned book. Have you ever thought about what makes a book truly powerful? It's not just the words on the page or the cover design. It's the ideas inside, waiting to connect with a reader's mind. Now, imagine a book like that, so full of ideas that someone somewhere decided it was too powerful. So powerful, they tried to make it disappear. This is the secret life of a banned book. A banned book is a book that has been removed from libraries, schools, or stores because someone in power, maybe a government, a religious group, or a school board, believes its ideas are wrong or dangerous. It's not just a book they don't like, it's a book they don't want anyone else to read. They think it might make people question things, think differently, or even challenge how things are done. They want to control what information you can get. For centuries, people have tried to control information. It's not a new thing. Think about a time when a new discovery changed how people saw the world. For example, when scientists first said the Earth goes around the sun, not the other way around, many people in power didn't like it. That idea challenged everything they thought was true. They didn't want people to believe it. Banning a book is a bit like that. It's a way to keep certain ideas from spreading, to keep people from looking at the world in a new way. The act of banning a book reveals a deep fear, the fear of ideas. Ideas are like seeds. Once planted, they can grow into mighty trees, strong enough to break through concrete. And those in charge sometimes fear these trees will upset their carefully built structures. Picture a small seed, buried deep underground. It's dark, and there's pressure from the earth all around it. Someone might have even tried to stamp it down to keep it from growing. But that tiny seed holds within it the entire blueprint for a plant, a flower, or a towering tree. It doesn't need light to start. It just needs the will to sprout. Even in the darkness, it pushes, it reaches, it finds a crack in the soil. Banned books are like that seed. Even when they are removed from shelves, even when people try to hide them or pretend they don't exist, the ideas within them don't just vanish. They find ways to spread, quietly, person by person, mind by mind. A whispered recommendation, a hidden copy passed between friends, a sudden spark of curiosity. These are the secret ways the seed of a banned book finds its light. The act of trying to suppress a book often makes it even more desired, turning it into a kind of forbidden fruit, something people seek out precisely because it's been deemed too dangerous. It tells them there's something important, something powerful within its pages. So, a banned book isn't really gone. It just enters a different kind of life, a secret life. It lives in the minds of those who have read it, and in the quiet determination of those who seek it out. It whispers its story through history, reminding us that ideas are resilient. They push against silence, and they find their way to those who are ready to listen, ready to think, ready to question. And perhaps that quiet journey, that hidden path, makes the ideas within them even stronger. It's a quiet strength, the kind that endures. From shelves to shadows, a book's journey. Have you ever thought about why some books disappear from library shelves? Not because they're lost or worn out, but because someone decided they shouldn't be there at all? It's a strange idea, isn't it, that a story or a set of facts could be seen as dangerous? This is what we mean when we talk about a book's journey from shelves to shadows. Imagine a book full of stories, ideas, or even tough questions sitting quietly on a library shelf. It's there for anyone to pick up, to read, to learn from, and to think about. But then, a decision is made. Maybe a group of parents, a school board, or even a government decides that this particular book holds ideas they don't want people, especially young people like you, to read. They might say it's too challenging, too honest about difficult parts of history, or that it promotes ideas they disagree with. So, they remove it. It's no longer easy to find in public places. It moves into the shadows, still existing, but hidden, less accessible, sometimes even forbidden. This idea of controlling what people read isn't new at all. For hundreds of years, people in power have tried to manage what others think and believe. Think about ancient times, or even just a few centuries ago. Kings, religious leaders, and governments often worried about new ideas spreading. Why? Because ideas can be incredibly powerful. They can make people question the way things are, see the world in a completely different light, or even inspire them to want big changes in society. If you can control what people read, you can try to control what they think. And that's why, throughout history, books have often been seen as a threat to those who want things to stay exactly the same. It's about keeping a tight hold on power, or sometimes it's about a genuine, but perhaps misguided, belief that they are protecting others from something they see as truly harmful. But it still takes away the choice. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing a video game, and you found a really clever strategy or a secret level that helps you win. But suddenly, the game creators decide that strategy is wrong or too powerful, and they remove the ability to use it in future updates. They might say it's for fairness or to balance the game, but really they're controlling how you play and what moves you're allowed to make. Or imagine your best friend tells you about an amazing, eye-opening movie they saw, but when you try to find it, you learn that it's been pulled from every streaming service and no longer sold in stores. Someone decided that movie's message was inappropriate or controversial, so they made it nearly impossible for you to see it for yourself. The movie still exists, but it's much harder to find, pushed into the shadows. You might even wonder why someone would want to hide it from you. When a book goes from the shelves to the shadows, it doesn't mean its story dies or its ideas disappear. In fact, sometimes it makes people even more curious about it. It makes us wonder, what was in that book that made someone so uncomfortable, so afraid? Why did they feel the need to hide its words from public view? This journey of a book reminds us how truly important it is to have the freedom to read, to learn, and to make up our own minds. It teaches us to question why something is hidden and to value the open exchange of ideas, even the difficult ones. Because true understanding often comes not from being told what to think, but from being able to explore many different thoughts and stories, even the ones some people try to keep secret. It helps us grow, learn, and become critical thinkers, able to decide for ourselves what is true and what matters. And that's why the journey from shelves to shadows is something we should always notice and understand. How books can change everything. Have you ever stopped to really think about how a few words, printed on pages, can actually change the entire world? It sounds big, right? Maybe even a little unbelievable. But here's the thing. Books are not just paper and ink. They are containers for ideas. They hold stories, thoughts, and feelings that can cross time and space, reaching out from one mind to another. Imagine you're talking to a friend about something important. You share an idea, and it clicks for them. Then they share it with someone else. And soon, a lot of people are thinking about that same idea, or even doing something because of it. Books work like that, but on a much larger scale. A book can plant a tiny seed of an idea in your mind. This seed might be a new way of looking at justice, or a different understanding of human kindness, or a challenge to something you always thought was true. And once that seed is planted, it can grow. It can change how you think, how you feel, and even what you do. Throughout history, this has happened again and again. Before the internet, before television, even before radio, books were the main way for big, important ideas to travel. Think about it. Someone in one country writes down their thoughts about freedom or fairness. That book is copied, sometimes by hand, sometimes by early printing presses, and sent to other places. People read it, often in secret, and these ideas spread. Suddenly, people who never met start to share a common understanding, a common dream, or a common anger. This shared understanding can grow into powerful movements, sometimes leading to huge changes in society, like new laws, new ways of governing, or even revolutions. It's like the ripple effect you see when you drop a stone into a still pond. The stone is the book, or the powerful idea inside it. The first tiny ripple spreads out, then more ripples follow, getting wider and wider, touching more and more of the water. One book, read by one person, can spark a thought. That thought is shared with another, then a group, then a community, and eventually, it can touch a whole nation or even the world. It's not always fast. Sometimes it takes years, even decades, for those ripples to truly spread far. But they do spread, and that's why some books get banned. It's not because they are bad stories or poorly written. Often, it's exactly because they are so powerful. People in power, or those who want things to stay exactly as they are, sometimes fear new ideas. They fear the ripple effect. They worry that if enough people read a certain book, those readers might start to question things, to demand change, or to think differently from what they're told. So, they try to stop the ripples before they start, or at least before they get too big. They try to cut off the ideas at their source by banning the books. But here's the hopeful part. Ideas are hard to stop. A book might be banned in one place, but its message can still find a way to travel, perhaps whispered from person to person, or found in unexpected corners. The very act of banning a book often makes people even more curious about it. It can shine a spotlight on the ideas inside, making them even stronger. So, when you hold a book, especially one that has been challenged or banned, remember what you're holding. It's not just pages. It's a connection to someone's mind, a quiet invitation to think, to feel, to imagine. It's a chance for your own understanding of the world to expand, to shift, to grow. Books can change you from the inside out, one sentence at a time. And sometimes, those personal changes, multiplied by many, are exactly how the world itself begins to change. They are quiet acts of courage, both for the writer who dared to share their thoughts, and for the reader who chooses to open the cover and truly listen. Thinking for yourself. What books teach us? Have you ever really wondered why you believe something? Not just because a friend said it, or because it's always been that way, but because you thought it through and decided it was true for yourself? This quiet, powerful act, this deep dive into your own mind, is what we call thinking for yourself. It means not just taking what you're told, it means asking questions, looking at different sides, and building your own understanding, bit by bit. It's like putting together a giant puzzle. Be curious, always looking beyond easy answers. This idea isn't new. Long ago, most believed the sun went around the earth. But thinkers like Copernicus didn't just accept this. They watched the sky, made observations, and used their minds to figure out that the earth actually revolves around the sun. Their ideas were risky, making people question old beliefs. That's what thinking for yourself means, challenging what's comfortable to find what you believe is true. Here's the thing. We live in a world where information comes fast. News, social media, videos. Everyone has an opinion. It can feel like a flood. How do you make sense of it all? How do you decide what's true? This is where thinking for yourself becomes so important. Imagine trying to figure out if a new movie is good. You could just listen to one friend. But what if you read different reviews, watch trailers, and then see it yourself? By gathering viewpoints, you form your own opinion. You're not just repeating someone else. You're using your brain to make a judgment. That's thinking for yourself in action. Books are like that, but for bigger ideas. When you read, especially books exploring new ways of thinking, you step into someone else's mind. You see the world through their eyes. Even if they lived long ago, you learn about cultures, problems, solutions. You read arguments for ideas you hadn't considered, and arguments against ideas you thought were correct. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything you read. Not at all. Reading gives you new facts, ideas, and perspectives. It's like gathering ingredients. You don't just eat them raw. You mix them, cook them, and make something new that's uniquely yours. Books provide the raw material for your own thoughts. Sometimes, a book gets banned because it makes people think in a way those in power don't like. It might share a difficult truth, show a different way of living, or question something always accepted. But even when a book is banned, the ideas don't disappear. They linger. They make us ask, why was this hidden? And when we do, we often think more deeply than ever. So, when you pick up a book, remember it's more than just words. It's an invitation. It's a chance to exercise your mind, stretch your understanding, and build your own strong way of seeing the world. This journey, started by words on a page, is one of the most important you'll ever take. It helps you grow, not just in knowledge, but in who you are. The dangers of not reading. Have you ever stopped to think about what it really means to understand something? Not just to know a fact, but to truly get it, deep down in your bones? Reading helps us do that. It's more than just looking at words on a page. It's how we step into other people's lives, how we explore worlds we might never see, and how we hear ideas that challenge our own. So, what happens when we don't read? Or when someone tries to stop us from reading? The danger is that our world can shrink. Imagine a small room with only one window. You can only see one thing from that window, right? You get a very limited view of the world outside. When we don't read, or when certain books are hidden from us, it's like someone is putting up curtains on all the other windows. Our view becomes narrow, and we miss out on so much. Throughout history, people in power have often tried to control what others could read. This wasn't by accident. They did it because ideas are powerful. If everyone only reads one kind of story, or hears only one point of view, it becomes much easier for those in charge to make everyone think the same way. This is why books have been burned, banned, or hidden away in secret places. It's not just about disagreeing with a story. It's about trying to control people's minds, to stop them from asking questions, to prevent them from seeing the world in a different light. Think about times when ancient libraries were destroyed, or when certain books were forbidden during difficult periods. People lost access to knowledge, to different ways of thinking, even to their own history. Here's the thing. Your brain is a lot like a muscle. If you only ever use one arm, the other arm gets weak, right? It can't do as much. Reading is like exercising your brain. Each new book, each new idea, builds a new connection. It makes your mind stronger and more flexible. If you only ever listen to one type of music, or only talk to people who think exactly like you, your world stays small. You don't learn how others see things. You don't stretch your mind to understand new concepts. And that's why it matters. Imagine trying to build a really complex Lego set, but someone keeps taking away some of the crucial pieces. You might be able to build something, but it won't be the full picture. It might not be as strong or as interesting as it could be. Books are those missing pieces. When you don't read, you miss out on vital parts of the puzzle of understanding. You might not learn to think for yourself as well. You might just accept what you're told, instead of questioning it. It also becomes harder to develop empathy, which is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. When you read a story, you live in someone else's shoes for a while. You feel what they feel. Without that, it's harder to connect with people who are different from you. You won't know the full history, both the good and the bad parts, which makes it harder to learn from the past and avoid repeating mistakes. It's like walking through life with blinders on, only seeing straight ahead, missing all the amazing, complicated, and challenging things happening around you. Reading is, in many ways, an act of freedom. It's how you build your own understanding of the world, piece by piece, not just accepting what others tell you. It helps you ask questions, even the tough ones. It helps you see that there isn't just one way to think or one way to live. So, when books are banned, it's not just a book being taken away, it's a bit of freedom being taken. It's a bit of understanding being dimmed. It's a part of our shared human story being erased. Our job, then, is to keep those lights bright. We do this by staying curious, by seeking out stories, and by understanding why knowing more is always better than knowing less. This helps us grow not just in our minds, but in our hearts, making us more thoughtful, kinder, and stronger people in a world that needs all the understanding it can get. Why people still fight for these books. Have you ever thought about why some books cause such big arguments? We're not talking about arguments over which superhero is better, but deep, serious debates that have lasted for years. Why do people fight so hard to keep certain books available, especially when others want them gone? Here's the thing. Books are more than just words on paper. They hold ideas, and ideas, whether they are new or old, are incredibly powerful. They can make you think in new ways. They can make you feel things you haven't felt before. They can even change the way you see the whole world. Because ideas are so powerful, some people get uncomfortable when ideas different from their own are shared. They might worry that new ideas will challenge old ways of thinking, or make people question things they believe are true. So, they try to control what people can read, hoping to control what people can think. This isn't a new problem. If you look back through history, you'll see examples of people trying to ban or even burn books in almost every time period. For centuries, people in power have tried to silence voices that seem threatening. They knew that if an idea could spread, it could lead to change. And change, to some, feels scary. So, banning books is often about fear. Fear of different thoughts. Fear of new beliefs. Fear of people thinking for themselves. But why do others fight so hard to protect these books? Think of it like this. Imagine you're putting together a huge, complicated puzzle. What if someone came along and took away a bunch of the pieces? And not just any pieces, but the ones that show a different part of the picture. Or imagine you're trying to learn about the world, but you're only allowed to look through one tiny window. You'd only ever see a small part of what's out there. Banned books are like those missing puzzle pieces, or those blocked windows. They often tell stories from different points of view. They talk about experiences that might be different from your own, or from what you usually hear about. They explore tough topics, historical events, or feelings that some people would rather not discuss. When a book is banned, it's like someone is trying to take away your chance to see a full picture of the world. They're trying to decide what you can learn, what you can imagine, and what you can understand about other people and places. People fight for these books because they believe in the right to explore. They believe in the right to ask questions. They believe that everyone should be able to hear different voices and different stories, even if those stories are uncomfortable or challenging. They know that, by understanding more, we grow more. If we only read books that agree with what we already know, we might never learn anything new or truly understand others. It's like only ever eating one type of food. You miss out on a whole world of flavors and nourishment, and that's why it matters so much. When we protect a banned book, we're not just protecting paper and ink. We're protecting the idea of open minds. We're protecting the right for every person to think freely, to learn without limits, and to understand the many different ways people live and feel. It means ensuring that all stories, even the ones that are hard to hear, remain available. Because every story, every idea, every window into another life helps us build a more complete, more understanding world for everyone, now and in the future. The echo of a banned book. Have you ever thought about what happens when you try to silence something completely? Like a loud noise, or a strong feeling, or even a big idea? You can try to push it away, or cover your ears, but sometimes it just echoes back. This is especially true for books. When we talk about the echo of a banned book, we're not just talking about the book itself, we're talking about the ideas inside that book. Imagine a giant bell ringing out a powerful sound. Even if someone tries to quickly muffle the bell, that sound has already traveled through the air. It bounces off walls, off trees, off buildings. It comes back to you. Softer, maybe, but still there. That's an echo. A banned book works a lot like that. For hundreds of years, in different places around the world, people have tried to ban books. They've removed them from libraries, taken them out of schools, even burned them. Why? Because the ideas in those books made some people uncomfortable or afraid. Maybe the book talked about freedom in a way that challenged a king, or fairness in a way that upset powerful leaders, or new discoveries that went against old beliefs. The people in charge thought, if we get rid of the book, we get rid of the idea. But here's the thing. Ideas are tricky. They are not like physical objects that can be easily locked away. Once an idea is out there, once it's written down and read by even a few people, it's like a seed planted in the mind. You can try to destroy the book, but you can't easily destroy the idea that has already taken root in someone's thoughts. Think about a popular song. Maybe your favorite band releases a new track and everyone loves it. Then, for some reason, a radio station decides not to play it anymore. They ban it from their airwaves. Does the song disappear? Number? People still have it on their phones. They still hum the melody. They tell their friends about it. The song's rhythm and lyrics have already moved into people's minds and hearts. Even without the radio, the song's echo, its influence, lives on in conversations, in memories, and in the way it made people feel. It's the same with a powerful book. Someone reads a story or an essay that opens their eyes to a new way of seeing the world. They share that insight with a friend. That friend, in turn, might talk about it with someone else. Or they might think differently about things because of it. Even if the book is no longer on a shelf, its core message, its feeling, its call to think, can continue to spread. It might surface in other writings, in plays, in protests, or simply in quiet moments of personal reflection. The very act of banning a book can sometimes even draw more attention to it, making people wonder, what's so powerful in there that they don't want us to read it? So, when a book is banned, it doesn't always disappear. Instead, its ideas often find new paths. They become whispers that travel through time, like echoes across a vast canyon. They remind us that true power lies not just in what can be held or burned, but in the enduring spirit of human thought and the quiet, persistent way ideas can reshape our world, one mind, one conversation, one generation at a time. The echo reminds us that ideas, once born, are very hard to silence forever. When ideas are dangerous, have you ever heard someone say, "That's a dangerous idea"? Maybe it was about a new way to do something, or a different way of thinking about a problem. It sounds strange, doesn't it? How can a thought, something that exists only in our minds, be dangerous? It's not like a sharp knife or a speeding car. But here's the thing. Ideas can be incredibly powerful. Sometimes, they are so powerful that people in charge, or even entire societies, feel threatened by them. An idea becomes dangerous when it challenges the way things are. It might question old rules, ancient beliefs, or the power of certain leaders. When someone suggests a totally new way of seeing the world, it can make others uncomfortable. It might make them rethink everything they thought they knew. This can be unsettling. And for those who benefit from the old ways, a new idea can feel like a direct attack on their position or their comfortable life. They might see it as a threat to order, to tradition, or even to what they believe is right and true. Think about the stars for a moment. For thousands of years, most people believed the Earth was the center of everything. The sun, the moon, and all the planets revolved around us. That was the accepted truth. But then a scientist named Galileo came along. He looked through his telescope and saw things that didn't fit the old idea. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter, which showed that not everything revolved around the Earth. He started to say that the Earth actually orbited the sun. This was a truly dangerous idea at the time. It went against what the most powerful institution, the Church, taught. It shook up people's understanding of their place in the universe. So, what happened? Galileo was put on trial. His book was banned, and he was forced to take back his words. His idea was seen as a threat to faith and order. But here's what happened over time. Galileo's dangerous idea turned out to be correct. The Earth does orbit the sun. His observations and thoughts eventually changed how everyone understood the solar system. This shows us something important about dangerous ideas. Often, they are not dangerous because they are wrong, but because they are new, and they ask us to think differently. Books are like special carriers for these dangerous ideas. They allow thoughts to travel across time and space, from one mind to another, even when the person who wrote them is long gone. A book can plant a seed of doubt, spark a new question, or simply offer a different way to look at something. That's why banning a book isn't just about stopping people from reading pages. It's about trying to stop an idea from spreading. It's an attempt to control what people think, to keep the world exactly as it is, even if the world is ready to change. So, when we talk about banned books, we're really talking about powerful ideas. We're talking about thoughts that were once considered so unsettling, so challenging, that someone tried to silence them. But the very act of banning often highlights the strength of the idea itself. It shows us how much power words truly hold. And it reminds us that true understanding comes not from avoiding challenging thoughts, but from daring to explore them, even the ones others might call dangerous. These books, these ideas, they are part of our journey as humans, helping us to see the world with new eyes, one page, one thought at a time. Censorship, a history of hiding books. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if someone decided what you could or could not read? What if they could just take away books, or even whole ideas, because they didn't agree with them? Imagine a world where certain thoughts were just gone. This is the heart of censorship. Censorship is when someone, usually a powerful group or person, stops others from seeing, hearing, or reading certain information. It's like a gatekeeper standing in front of a giant library, deciding which books are allowed inside and which must be locked away, or even burned. The word censor comes from ancient Rome, where officials called censors actually watched over public morals and records. But over time, it became about controlling what people could think or know. Think about it like this. Your brain is a garden. For ideas to grow, you need all sorts of seed sunshine, rain, and different kinds of soil. Censorship is like someone coming into your garden and pulling out certain plants because they don't like their color, or they're afraid of how tall they might grow. They might even try to tell you that those plants never existed in the first place. You're left with a garden that looks less vibrant, less full, and less true to its own potential. Throughout history, people have tried to hide books and silence voices for many reasons. Sometimes, it was about protecting power. If a ruler feared that new ideas might make people question their authority, They might ban books that talked about freedom or different ways of living. Other times, it was about protecting beliefs. If a religious group felt challenged by scientific discoveries or different ways of thinking about the world, they might try to suppress those ideas. They believed they were doing the right thing, protecting people from what they saw as dangerous thoughts. In ancient times, the burning of the Library of Alexandria, though perhaps not a single event, stands as a powerful symbol of lost knowledge. Imagine thousands of scrolls, full of the wisdom and stories of old worlds, gone forever. Later, with the invention of the printing press, books became easier to make and spread. This was amazing, but it also made it easier for people to share ideas that challenged the powerful. So, those in charge started making lists of forbidden books. The goal was always the same: control the flow of information to control what people thought. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To be so afraid of words, of stories, of facts. But the people who censor aren't just afraid of the words themselves. They are afraid of what those words might do. They are afraid of questions. They are afraid of change. They are afraid of people thinking for themselves, forming their own opinions, and deciding their own paths. And here's the thing. When ideas are hidden, when books are banned, we all lose something. We lose the chance to hear different voices, to understand different viewpoints, to learn from mistakes made long ago, and to imagine new ways forward. It's like being told you can only walk down one very narrow path, when a whole forest of possibilities is waiting just beyond. When we are denied access to a full range of thoughts, our own understanding of the world becomes smaller, less rich, and sometimes less true. We miss out on the chance to fully grow, to truly understand the complex, messy, wonderful world we live in. The books that shaped you. Maybe. Have you ever read a book that stayed with you long after you finished the last page? Not just a fun story, but one that made you think? Maybe it was a character's struggle, or a strange new world, or an idea that just felt right, deep down. It's like the book became a part of you, changing how you see things, even just a little bit. That feeling, that quiet shift inside, is what we mean when we talk about books shaping us. It's not magic, but it's powerful. Books are not just words on paper. They are ideas, packaged up and sent out into the world. They can whisper new thoughts into your mind, challenge old beliefs you didn't even know you had, or open your eyes to experiences very different from your own. And sometimes, when those ideas are too powerful, or too different from what some people want others to think, those books get banned. Think about it like this. Your brain is always learning, always growing. When you learn a new skill, like how to solve a tricky math problem or how to play a new song on an instrument, your brain actually makes new connections. It rewires itself a little. Reading is kind of like that for your understanding of the world. Each new idea, each new story, can create a small path in your mind. It helps you see more, connect more, understand more. For a long, long time, people have known this power. Way back in ancient times, if someone wanted to control how a society thought, they often started by controlling what people could read. If a ruler didn't like an idea, they might burn books, destroy scrolls, or forbid people from sharing certain stories. It wasn't just about stopping a book, it was about stopping an idea. They wanted to shape everyone's thoughts to fit their own. So, when a book is banned, it's usually because someone believes it has the power to change minds in a way they don't want. Maybe it makes people question authority. Maybe it makes them feel sympathy for someone different. Maybe it shows a world that challenges the way things are. But here's the thing. Ideas are tricky. You can burn a book, but it's much harder to burn an idea once it has taken root in someone's mind. Think about how you form your own opinions. You listen to friends, you watch things, you experience life. But books are a huge part of that. They introduce you to voices from different times and places. They let you step into someone else's shoes, even for a moment. This can help you understand the world in a deeper way. It makes you ask questions like, why do things work this way? Or, what if they were different? That questioning, that quiet wondering, is a sign of your own mind growing. Books, especially those that challenge us, are often the tools that help us figure out who we are and what we believe. They might not give you all the answers, but they can help you ask better questions. They can help you understand the world and your place in it a little bit more. Even when books are banned, the very act of banning them often shines a spotlight on the ideas they contain. It makes people curious. And curiosity is a powerful thing. It makes us seek out those very ideas to understand why they might be seen as dangerous. So, the next time you pick up a book, remember it's more than just a collection of words. It's a potential conversation with a mind from the past or present. It's a chance for a new idea to blossom in your own thoughts. And maybe, just maybe, one of those books, even one that someone tried to silence, will be the one that truly shapes you. It will help you see the world with your own eyes, think with your own mind, and stand strong in what you believe. And that's why these stories, these ideas, truly matter. Stories that built a better world. Have you ever stopped to think about how a simple story, just words on a page, can actually change the world? It sounds like a big idea, maybe even impossible. But here's the thing. Stories have always been one of humanity's most powerful tools. They aren't just for entertainment, like a movie you watch on a Friday night. They are how we pass down what we know, what we believe, and what we dream of. Imagine our earliest ancestors, gathered around a fire. They didn't have books or television, so they told stories. Stories about hunting, about the stars, about heroes and villains. These tales taught them how to survive, what was right and wrong, and how to understand their place in the world. They created a shared understanding, a way for everyone in the group to feel connected and to learn from the experiences of others, even if those experiences were just imagined. And that's how it works today, too. A story lets you step into someone else's shoes. Even if that person lived hundreds of years ago or is completely made up, you get to see the world through their eyes, feel what they feel, and understand their struggles and triumphs. This isn't just a nice feeling. It's how we build understanding. It's how we learn to have compassion for people who are different from us. And that understanding, that sense of shared humanity, is the first step toward building a better world. Think about a time you read a book or watched a show where a character faced a really tough problem, maybe something unfair. You rooted for them, right? You felt their frustration, their anger, or their hope. And when they finally made a difference, you felt it too. That feeling, that connection, can spark something in us. It can make us want to do something about unfairness in our own lives or in the wider world. It shows us that change is possible and that even one person or one idea can make a huge difference. Consider how a single book might present an idea that was completely new or even shocking at the time it was written. Maybe it talked about treating everyone equally when that wasn't common, or questioned old rules that seemed unfair. At first, some people might have been afraid of these new ideas. They might have even tried to stop others from reading the book, to keep the old ways in place. But here's what happened. Those stories, those ideas, kept spreading. They traveled from person to person, sparking conversations, making people think differently, and slowly, over time, those conversations grew into movements, into changes in laws, into a different way of seeing the world. It's like how a tiny seed, pushed by the wind, lands in new soil and grows into a mighty tree. The story is the seed, and your mind is the soil. When you read, you're planting those seeds of ideas, understanding, and empathy. And as those seeds grow, they don't just change you. They change the world around you. One thought, one conversation, one act of kindness at a time. It's a slow, quiet process, but it's incredibly powerful. And that's why, throughout history, stories have been banned. Because those who fear change know the power a story holds. But the truth is, a story, once told, can never truly be unwritten from the human heart. It lingers, it whispers, and it inspires. Challenging the rules with words. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when someone says something that makes everyone else pause? Something that makes them look at the world a little differently? It's like a small ripple in a quiet pond, but that ripple can grow into a wave. Here's the thing. Sometimes, just a few words can challenge everything people believe is right or true. This idea of challenging the rules with words is about courage. It's about speaking up when the common way of thinking might be unfair. or simply wrong. For a long time, in many places, certain people or groups held all the power. They decided what was okay to say, what was okay to think, and what was true. Their ideas were the rules. And if you disagreed, if you spoke out, there could be serious consequences. People might ignore you, or worse, they might try to silence you completely. But history shows us that words have a quiet power all their own. Think about a time when people believed the earth was flat. Everyone knew it, right? It was the accepted rule. But then brave thinkers, through their observations, their calculations, and their writings, began to suggest a different idea, that the earth was actually round. At first, this idea seemed wild, maybe even dangerous. It went against everything people had been taught, but the words and the evidence kept coming. Slowly, painstakingly, those new ideas, those challenging words, reshaped what everyone understood to be true. And that's why it matters. This isn't just about big scientific discoveries, though. It's also about how we treat each other. Imagine a time when only certain groups of people were allowed to vote, or go to certain schools, or even just sit in certain places. These were the rules of society. But then, writers and thinkers started to put words on paper. They wrote about fairness, about equality, about how these rules hurt people. Their books, their essays, their poems, they didn't just share information, they stirred feelings. They painted pictures of a different, better world. They challenged the deep-seated beliefs that kept unfair rules in place. It's like when you're playing a game, and one rule just doesn't make sense, or it makes the game unfair for some players. You might grumble, but then someone speaks up. Maybe they write down an argument, or they propose a new way to play. Those words, that challenge, can get others thinking. Soon, enough people agree, and the rule changes. The game becomes better, fairer. When books are banned, it's often because the words within them are doing just that. They are challenging a rule, a belief, or a power structure that someone in charge doesn't want questioned. These books aren't just collections of words. They are sometimes quiet acts of bravery. They whisper, or sometimes shout, ideas that can change minds, that can inspire movements, and that can shift the very foundation of how we live together. The act of banning a book is really an attempt to stop that ripple, to prevent that wave from forming. But here's the problem for those who ban. Once an idea is put into words, once it's written down, it's very hard to erase. Ideas have a way of surviving, of finding new pathways, even across time and distance. So, when you pick up a book that was once banned, you're not just reading a story. You are holding a piece of that long, powerful history. You are holding words that dared to challenge, words that made people think, words that, little by little, shaped the world we live in today. And in exploring them, you become a part of that ongoing story. The books they tried to silence. Have you ever been told not to do something, and suddenly that's all you want to do? Like when someone whispers a secret, and then says, "But don't tell anyone." What happens? You usually want to know that secret even more. You might even feel a strong urge to share it. Well, in a way, that's a little like what happens when someone tries to ban a book. Banning a book isn't about burning it or making it disappear completely. It's more about trying to control what people think. It's about trying to stop an idea from spreading. Imagine if a teacher told you a certain book was off limits, that you weren't allowed to read it. What would your first thought be? Likely, why? What's in that book they don't want me to see? This natural curiosity is part of why banning books often backfires. For centuries, people in power have tried to silence ideas they found threatening. Maybe an idea challenged how society was set up. Maybe it questioned the rules of a powerful leader or a popular belief. Sometimes, these ideas simply made people uncomfortable. So, to keep things the way they were, or to stop people from thinking for themselves, they would try to get rid of the books that held those ideas. They'd remove them from schools, from libraries, even make it illegal to own them. Think of it like this. If you try to hold a beach ball underwater, it fights back, right? The harder you push it down, the more it wants to pop back up. Ideas are a bit like that beach ball. When someone tries to push them down, to hide them, or to silence them, those ideas often gain more power. They become more interesting, more desired. People start asking questions. They wonder what's so special or so dangerous about these forbidden thoughts. History shows us this again and again. Books that were once banned or considered too dangerous often became some of the most important books ever written. They sparked revolutions, changed the way we think about science, or helped us understand ourselves better. Sometimes, the very act of trying to suppress a book made it famous. People would pass copies around secretly, sharing the forbidden words, making sure the ideas survived. These books often become symbols of freedom and the power of thought. So, when we talk about the books they tried to silence, we're not just talking about old pieces of paper. We're talking about whispers that grew into shouts, about ideas that refused to die, and about the human spirit's constant need to question, to learn, and to grow. These books, even when hidden away, kept speaking to people, guiding them, and helping shape the world we live in today. They remind us that true power doesn't come from silencing voices, but from listening to them, even the ones that challenge us the most. From school boards to blacklists, imagine for a moment that someone else chose every book you read for school. Not just your teacher, but maybe a group of adults far away, deciding not just what you should read, but what you couldn't read. What if a book you loved suddenly vanished from the library shelf? Not because it was lost, but because it was removed on purpose. This is the hidden world of banned books, a quiet battle that happens more often than you might think. We hear the words banned books, and maybe we picture a huge bonfire of burning pages from hundreds of years ago. And while that has happened in history, the truth today is often much calmer, but still just as serious. So, what does it mean for a book to be banned? It simply means that a person or a group, usually someone in a position of power like a school board, a library committee, or even a parent group, decides that a certain book should not be available to others. This might mean taking it off a library shelf, removing it from a classroom curriculum, or making it hard for people to find. It's an attempt to control information, to decide what ideas are allowed to be shared and what ideas are not. And blacklists. Think of a blacklist as a formal list, sometimes public, sometimes just implied, of books or authors that are considered unacceptable or even dangerous by certain groups. When a book ends up on a blacklist, it's often because it challenges comfortable ideas, explores difficult truths, or presents different ways of thinking about the world. It's like being told, this thought is not allowed. Why does this happen? The reasons are varied, but they often come from a place of fear. Sometimes, adults genuinely believe they are protecting young people from ideas they see as harmful, confusing, or too mature. They might worry about topics like violence, prejudice, different ways of living, or even just ideas that go against what they personally believe. It's a desire to keep things safe or pure. But here's the thing. Trying to remove books often comes from a wish to control what people think, not just what they read. For a long time throughout history, books have been seen as powerful. They carry ideas across time and space. They let us step into other people's shoes and see the world through their eyes. That power can feel threatening to those who want everyone to think and believe the same way. From ancient empires burning scrolls to modern-day school board meetings debating which books belong in the library, the pattern is similar. Someone wants to limit access to certain stories or information. Think of it like this. Imagine you're working on a big group project for school. Everyone has different ideas, right? Maybe one person suggests a really creative, out-of-the-box approach. Another suggests a more traditional one. Now, imagine if one person in the group decided that only their ideas were good, and they refused to even listen to or consider anyone else's suggestions. They might even try to throw out or hide the notes with other people's ideas. Your project wouldn't be as strong, would it? It wouldn't be well-rounded or interesting. It would only represent one narrow point of view. Banning books works in a similar way. It cuts off different ideas, different ways of looking at the world. It tries to make sure we only hear one story, one way of thinking. But the world is full of many stories, many ideas, and many different kinds of people. If we only ever hear or read about things that confirm what we already believe, how do we learn? How do we grow? How do we prepare for a world that is much bigger and more complex than just our own experiences? The goal of banning books is often to stop certain conversations, to keep certain truths hidden, or to prevent certain feelings from being explored. But the quiet strength of a book, once it's out there, is hard to truly erase. Even if a book is removed from a shelf, the ideas within it often find a way to live on. And perhaps the deepest lesson here is that our minds are meant to be open, to question, to explore. When we try to shut down ideas, we don't just ban a book, we close off a part of ourselves and our potential to understand the full, rich tapestry of human experience. We lose the chance to think for ourselves, to make up our own minds, and to really understand the world in all its complicated beauty. The day books fought back. Have you ever thought about how a story, just lines of words on paper, could actually fight back? It sounds strange, right? Like a book can't throw a punch or yell at someone. But here's the thing. Books have a different kind of strength. A quiet power. A power that can be really hard to control. For centuries, people in power have tried to stop certain books. They've banned them from schools, pulled them from library shelves, and sometimes they've even burned them in public squares. Why would anyone do that? Well, sometimes a book brings up ideas that make people uncomfortable. Maybe it asks tough questions about fairness, or freedom, or how the world works. Or maybe it tells a story that shows life from a different angle, one that some people don't want others to see. They might think these ideas are dangerous, or that they'll make people think too much, or challenge old ways of doing things. So, they try to make the books disappear. They try to silence the voices inside them. But here's where the books, or rather the ideas within them, begin to fight back. Imagine you have a song stuck in your head. You try to think of something else. You try to hum a different tune, but that song just keeps coming back, right? It's persistent. Or think about a secret shared between friends. Someone might try to stop it from spreading, but whispers travel. Soon, everyone knows. Ideas in books are a lot like that. Once they're out there, once they've been read by someone, they're incredibly hard to get rid of. Even if a book is banned or burned, the ideas don't vanish into thin air. They live on in the minds of the people who read them. Maybe someone copied parts of the book by hand. Maybe its message inspired other writers, who then wrote new books echoing similar thoughts. The words might become part of conversations, whispered among friends, debated in quiet rooms. So, even if the physical book is gone, its spirit, its message, continues to exist. It might hide for a while, like a tiny seed waiting for the right moment to sprout. But then, slowly, quietly, the ideas push through. They pop up in new places, in different forms, often when you least expect it. This quiet strength, this refusal to truly die, that's how books fight back. They don't need fists or weapons. They just need to be read, to be remembered, to plant a seed of thought in someone's mind. They show us that some ideas are so powerful, so true, that they can't be locked away or burned. They find a way to breathe, to grow, to spread. And that's why it matters. Because a single idea, once it takes root in someone's heart, can change everything. It's a reminder that true power isn't about control or silence. It's about the unstoppable force of a story, a truth, a new way of thinking, finding its way into the world, no matter how many walls are built against it. More than just pages. A book's heart. When you hold a book in your hands, what do you really feel? Is it just the cover, the paper, the ink? Or is there something else there? Something you can't touch but you know is real? Think about it this way. A book has a kind of heart. It's not a heart that beats like yours, of course, but it's the living, breathing center of the book. It's the main idea, the big feeling, the truth the author wanted to share with the world. This heart is the reason a book is written. And it's the reason some books are even banned. A book's heart is its core message, its spirit. It's the dream, the question, the new way of seeing things that the author poured onto the pages. Imagine someone writes a story about a brave character who stands up to an unfair ruler. The words on the page are just how they tell it. But the heart of that story is the idea of courage, of fairness, of speaking truth to power. This heart is what connects with you, makes you think, and sometimes makes you feel deeply. Now, here's the thing about this book heart. It's incredibly powerful. Throughout history, leaders and groups have sometimes tried to control what people think. And when a book's heart beats with an idea they don't like, they might try to silence it. They might ban the book from schools, pull it from libraries, or even burn copies. Why would they do this? Because the ideas in that book, its very heart, can be a spark. That spark can light a fire in people's minds, make them question what's going on around them, and even inspire them to change the world. It's not just about the words. It's about the truth, or the feeling those words carry. Think about a favorite song, maybe one that always makes you feel strong, or happy, or understood. The song is more than just sounds coming from speakers, right? It has a melody, lyrics, and rhythm, but its true power, its heart, is how it makes you feel inside. It's the message, the emotion, the way it connects with something deep in you. If someone were to rip up the sheet music for that song, or delete the music file, would the song truly be gone? Its heart, its message, its feeling would live on in your memory, in the way it changed you, and in the way you might share it with others, by humming it or talking about it. It's the same with books. When a book is banned, the physical object might be removed, but the heart of that book, its powerful ideas and feelings, doesn't just disappear. The message lives on in the minds of those who read it. It lives on in conversations, in whispers, in new ideas that grow from that original spark. And that's why it matters. Even when books are hidden away, their hearts keep beating, reminding us that ideas are resilient. They show us that truth and human spirit can find a way to endure, always seeking to be heard and understood, no matter what. The voices we almost lost. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a piece of your favorite music was suddenly erased? Or if a part of a famous movie was cut out and you never knew what you missed? It's a strange thought, isn't it? Because when something like that happens, a voice is silenced, a story is unfinished. And that's what we talk about when we talk about the voices we almost lost. For centuries, certain books have been banned. This means they were removed from schools, libraries, and even bookstores. Sometimes they were even burned. Why would anyone do this? Well, here's the thing. Books hold ideas. They carry stories, facts, new ways of thinking, and even feelings. And sometimes, those ideas make people in power uncomfortable. They might fear that certain books will make people question things, or think differently, or even challenge how society is set up. So, to keep things the way they are, or to control what people believe, they try to hide these books. They try to silence the voices within them. Think of it like this. Imagine your class is working on a big group project. Everyone has different ideas, different research, and different ways of seeing the problem. Now, what if one person decided that only their ideas were good enough? What if they took everyone else's notes and threw them away, or even locked them up, so no one else could see them? How would that project turn out? It wouldn't be as complete, would it? It would be missing so much. You'd lose out on all those other perspectives, all those different ways of understanding. That's a bit like what happens when a book is banned. When a book is taken off the shelf, it's not just paper and ink being removed. It's a whole world. It's a character's journey, a scientist's discovery, a poet's feeling, or an activist's cry for justice. These are the voices. When a book is banned, it's an attempt to make those voices disappear. But here's the amazing part. Many of these voices didn't disappear. They were just hidden. They whispered from secret places, or were passed from hand to hand, until someday they could speak loudly again. Throughout history, people have tried to control what others read. They believed that by stopping books, they could stop ideas. But ideas, once they exist, are very hard to truly kill. They are like seeds. Even if you try to bury them deep, some will always find a way to grow. And when they do, they bring a richness and understanding that we would have missed. So, when we talk about the voices we almost lost, we're really talking about the amazing power of ideas and the importance of making sure every story has a chance to be heard. Because when we hear more voices, we understand the world and ourselves so much better. Why curiosity can get books banned. Have you ever wondered why we want to know things? Why a mystery story pulls you in? Or why you keep clicking links on the internet, just learning more and more about something new? That feeling is curiosity. It's a powerful part of being human, like a quiet hunger that wants to be fed with knowledge. But sometimes, this very natural urge to explore and understand can make people uncomfortable. And when that happens, books can get banned. Here's the thing. Books are like little worlds, full of new ideas, different ways of thinking, and stories from lives very different from our own. They invite us to step outside what we already know and imagine something new. When a book does this, it sparks curiosity. It makes us ask questions. What if? Why? Could things be different? For many people, this is a wonderful thing. It helps us grow and learn. But for others, especially those in power, or those who strongly believe one way of thinking is the only right way, this curiosity can feel like a threat. They might worry that new ideas will confuse young people, challenge old rules, or even cause trouble. They might think that if everyone starts asking too many questions, the way things are might change. And sometimes, people are scared of change. So, instead of letting curiosity lead to more understanding, they try to shut it down. They try to control what people can read, hoping to control what people can think. Banning a book is like putting a big "do not touch" sign on an interesting, mysterious box. They want to stop you from opening it, from seeing what's inside, from asking what it all means. Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a dark room. You've always been told the room is small, and there's nothing else beyond the walls, But then someone tells you there's a small, hidden door. You feel a pull, a curiosity to find it, to see what's on the other side. Some people might say, "Don't look. It's better not to know what's out there. Stay safe in this small room." Banning a book is like putting a lock on that hidden door. They believe they are keeping you safe, but they are also keeping you from discovering a wider world. Historically, this has happened many times. For centuries, people believed the earth was flat and that the sun revolved around the earth. When scientists like Galileo used observation and reason to suggest the earth was round and revolved around the sun, his ideas made many powerful people uncomfortable. It challenged everything they thought they knew. His books and ideas were suppressed because they sparked a dangerous kind of curiosity, the kind that made people question accepted truths. Or think about the forbidden fruit idea. If you tell someone they absolutely cannot do something, or read a certain book, what often happens? They want to do it even more. Our brains are wired to explore. We have a natural urge to seek out new information, especially if it feels like someone is trying to hide it from us. It's a basic part of human psychology. When a book is banned, it often doesn't kill curiosity. It simply makes it grow stronger, deeper, and more determined. So, when a book is banned because it sparks curiosity, it's often because the ideas inside are powerful enough to make people think differently, to challenge the way things are. It's not about the words on the page being truly harmful. Instead, it's about the ideas those words can create in a curious mind. And that, in itself, tells us something important about the power of books. They are not just paper and ink. They are pathways to new thoughts. And sometimes, those paths can lead us to question, to grow, and to understand the world in a whole new light. And that is a journey worth taking. The unexpected journey of a book. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to a book after it's written? Not just where it goes physically, like from a bookstore to your shelf, but what happens to its ideas. It's a kind of hidden life, a secret journey every book takes. A book isn't just paper and ink. It's a container for ideas. Once those ideas are out in the world, they take on a life of their own. They travel, they grow, they change people. Because they are so powerful, some people try to stop them. They try to ban them. But here's the interesting thing. Trying to stop a book often just makes its journey even more unexpected, and sometimes even more powerful. Think about this. Imagine someone tries to keep a secret. They tell you, "Don't tell anyone." What happens? That secret suddenly feels important. You want to know more. You might even want to share it. It's like a magnet, pulling curiosity. Banned books work in a similar way. When a book is declared not allowed, people wonder, why not? What's inside that they don't want me to see? This curiosity gives the book new energy, a new path forward. Throughout history, leaders have tried to control what people think. One way is to control what people read. They saw books as dangerous. A book could teach new ways of thinking, or make people question old ideas. A book could share stories of rebellion, or show people they weren't alone. So, they would try to stop these books. They would burn them, hide them, or forbid people from reading them. This wasn't just about protecting people. It was often about keeping control. But here's the magic of a book's journey. Ideas are hard to kill. You can burn a copy of a book, but not the idea in someone's mind who has read it. You can hide a book, but someone might have copied it or memorized parts. The idea finds a way to sneak out, to whisper from person to person. It travels not just on pages, but through conversations, through memories, and through other stories it inspires. It might take years, even centuries, but often, the ideas once hidden or forbidden come back. They might reappear in a different form, or spark a new movement. Consider a seed, planted in good soil, and it grows. But even if you try to bury it under a heavy rock, or put it in a dark place, that seed still holds potential for life. It pushes. Sometimes, it finds a crack and bursts through. Sometimes, it just waits, preserving its life until conditions are right. A book is like that seed. Its ideas, once planted, have a deep will to live, to sprout, to spread. The unexpected journey of a banned book is a powerful reminder. It tells us that what seems like an ending, a ban, a burning, is often just a turn in the road. It reminds us that ideas have incredible resilience. They might be challenged, they might be silenced for a time, but they rarely truly disappear. The deep thoughts and feelings a book carries can lie dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken and continue their journey. So, when you see a book, especially one that has been challenged or banned, remember its secret life. Remember its quiet strength. It's a journey not just of words, but of enduring ideas that, against all odds, continue to shape the world. It's a journey that keeps going, long after the last page is turned, long after the covers are closed. And that's why it matters. Turning pages, changing minds. Imagine for a moment a quiet room, a book open in your hands. You're reading words someone else wrote, maybe 100 years ago or 1,000. But as you read, something happens inside you. A thought sparks. A new feeling takes root. Have you ever felt that? That feeling when a story, an idea, suddenly shifts how you see everything. This is the deep, quiet power of books. They can change your mind. This power is what we mean when we talk about turning pages, changing minds. It's not just about learning facts, like remembering dates in history class. It's about how reading can open up a different way of thinking. It can make you understand people who are very different from you. It can challenge ideas you thought were absolutely true. And sometimes, it can give you new ideas that you never knew existed. When a book does this, it's like a tiny revolution happening inside your own head. Throughout history, people have understood this power. They knew that if you control what people read, you can control what they think. And if you control what they think, you control what they do. This is why books have been banned, burned, and hidden away for centuries. Powerful groups, whether they were governments, churches, or other leaders, often feared new ideas. They worried that if people read certain books, they might start questioning things. They might demand changes. They might see the world in a new way that didn't fit with how things were currently set up. So, the act of banning a book isn't just about the book itself. It's about trying to stop the ideas within it from spreading. It's about trying to stop minds from changing. Think about it like this. Your brain is like a huge, unexplored forest. Every time you learn something new, especially from a book, it's like a new path is being carved through that forest. At first, it's just a faint trail. But the more you think about that idea, the more you read about it, the wider and clearer that path becomes. Before you know it, you're walking a whole new route through your thoughts, seeing parts of the forest you never knew were there. Banning books is like someone trying to block off certain paths, telling you which parts of the forest you're allowed to explore and which are forbidden. They want you to stick to the old, familiar trails, the ones they built for you. But here's the thing about paths and about ideas. They find a way. Even if a book is banned, its ideas might still be talked about. People might share them secretly, or they might be woven into other stories. The human mind is always curious, always seeking, always trying to connect new paths. The act of reading, of truly engaging with a book, is a very personal and quiet act. But its impact can echo outwards, from one person to another, slowly, steadily changing the larger world. So, when we look at banned books, we're not just looking at stories someone didn't want you to read. We're looking at the battleground of ideas. We're seeing how much power a simple collection of words can hold. And we're reminded of the deep, quiet strength that lies within each of us. The freedom to turn a page, to welcome a new thought, and to let our own minds be changed. It's a gentle power, but it has shaped history, and it continues to shape who we are and who we can become. The world's most wanted books. Have you ever been told not to do something, and suddenly, that's all you wanted to do? Maybe it was a video game your parents said was too violent, or a movie your older siblings said you weren't ready for. That feeling of wanting something more because it's forbidden, or because someone tried to hide it from you. That's a powerful human thing. It makes you wonder, what makes something so important, so powerful, that people would want to make it disappear? That's how we can think about the world's most wanted books. Not wanted like you want a new pair of sneakers, but wanted in the sense that someone, somewhere, wanted them gone. They wanted them off shelves, out of schools, sometimes even burned. These are books that people tried to silence. Why? Because ideas, especially big, challenging ideas, can be frightening to some. A book might question the rules of society, or talk about a different way to live, or show a side of history that some want to forget. When a book does that, it can make people uncomfortable, and sometimes that discomfort leads to an attempt to make the book vanish. Think about it like this. Imagine a big, heavy curtain. For a long time, everyone believes what's behind the curtain is one thing. But then, a book comes along, and it pulls back a corner of that curtain, just a little, and suddenly, people see something different. Maybe it's a new truth, or a hard truth, or a way of seeing themselves in the world they hadn't considered before. This can be exciting for many, but for those who benefit from keeping the curtain closed, it can feel like a threat. They might fear that if too many people look behind the curtain, their power or their way of life might change. So, their answer is to try and close the curtain again, maybe even burn the curtain. This isn't a new story. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. In ancient times, libraries full of scrolls were destroyed. In more recent history, books have been officially banned by governments or quietly removed from school libraries and public shelves. It's almost like a reflex. When a society feels threatened, or when a powerful group wants to control what people think, one of the first things they often try to do is control information. And books are powerful carriers of information. Consider a simple example. Imagine a secret. If someone whispers, "Don't tell anyone this," what happens? Your ears perk up, right? You immediately want to know what the secret is. And once you know it, it's really hard to keep it hidden. It wants to get out. Ideas in books are a bit like that. When a book is banned or challenged, it often draws more attention to it. People wonder, why is this book so dangerous? What's inside that someone doesn't want me to read? Sometimes, trying to hide a book makes it even more famous, even more desired. It becomes a symbol of curiosity, of a hidden truth. These most wanted books often challenge us to think deeply. They ask us to question, to empathize, to see the world through someone else's eyes. They might talk about freedom, equality, human rights, or simply tell a story that makes us feel seen or understood in a new way. These are the books that invite us to be brave in our thoughts. They remind us that ideas cannot truly be destroyed, only temporarily suppressed. The very act of trying to stop people from reading a book often lights a fire under it, making its message burn brighter in the minds of those who seek it out. And so, these books, once seen as dangerous, often become symbols of courage, resilience, and the enduring human desire to know, to understand, and to be free to think for ourselves. Reading, an act of rebellion? Have you ever stopped to think about how truly powerful a book can be? It's just paper and ink, right? But what if picking up a book, reading its words, and letting its ideas settle in your mind was actually a quiet act of rebellion? Rebellion often sounds like a loud protest or a grand stand against something unfair. But here's the thing. Rebellion isn't always about shouting in the streets. Sometimes, it's about a very personal, very quiet decision to think for yourself. It's about not accepting things just because someone told you to. When you read, you're letting new ideas into your head. You're learning things that someone might not want you to know. And that, in its own way, can be an act of defiance. Throughout history, there have always been people in power who tried to control what others thought. They understood that if people started reading too much, especially certain books, they might begin to ask questions. They might start seeing the world differently. They might even challenge the way things were. So, to keep control, these powerful people often did something simple but drastic. They banned books. They burned them. They made it illegal to read them. Why? Because a book, even a worn-out one hidden away, carries ideas. And ideas, once planted, can grow. They can change minds. And changed minds can change the world. This is why reading, even when done alone in a quiet room, can be seen as a challenge to anyone who wants to limit your thinking. Think about it like this. Imagine you've always been told that a certain type of food is bad for you, and everyone around you believes it. Maybe your friends make fun of anyone who tries it. Then, you find a cookbook or a science article that explains why that food, in moderation, is actually quite healthy and tasty. Suddenly, your view changes. You might even quietly try that food yourself, or tell others about what you learned. That quiet act of changing your own mind, based on new information you sought out, is like a small rebellion against what you were told. You didn't yell or argue. You just learned something new and decided for yourself. That's the power of reading. It gives you new information, new perspectives, and new ways to look at the world. When you read a book, especially one that challenges common ideas or tells a story from a different point of view, you are expanding your own thoughts. You are building your own understanding. You are forming your own opinions, not just borrowing someone else's. This is a powerful, quiet process. It's a way of saying, I will think for myself. So, the next time you open a book, remember that you are not just reading words on a page. You are connecting with ideas. You are engaging in a quiet, personal act of freedom. You are claiming your right to know, to learn, and to grow. And in a world where some still try to tell us what to think, that quiet act of reading might just be one of the most important things you can do. When books are called too much, have you ever thought about why some ideas or even some stories might make people uncomfortable? It's a strange thing, isn't it? We often think of books as friends, as gateways to other worlds. But sometimes, a book becomes more than just a story. It becomes something some people call too much. What does it mean for a book to be too much? It doesn't mean the book is too long or too hard to read. It means the ideas inside it are seen as challenging, as upsetting the usual way of things. Imagine a quiet pond where everyone expects the surface to stay smooth and still. Then, a book comes along, like a stone thrown into that pond, creating ripples. Those ripples can be small, just a little change in thought. Or they can be big waves, making people question everything they thought they knew. When a book is called too much, it's often because it dares to create those waves. It holds a mirror up to society, showing things that people might not want to see. Or it offers a new path that feels risky. Think about the way the world used to be. For a very long time, most people believed the earth was the center of everything, and the sun revolved around us. That was the accepted truth. Then, scientists like Copernicus and Galileo came along with new ideas, showing that the earth actually moves around the sun. This was a massive change in thinking, and for many, it was too much to accept. It challenged powerful religious beliefs and a way of understanding the universe that had existed for centuries. People were scared of this new truth. They felt it threatened their entire world. Galileo was even put under house arrest for his ideas. His books were essentially banned, or at least heavily controlled, because they brought forth a truth that was considered too disruptive, too challenging for the time. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're trying to build a really tall tower with building blocks. You've been taught one specific way to stack them, making sure it's strong and stable. But then, someone comes along and suggests a completely different way to stack the blocks. A way that looks wobbly at first, or maybe even wrong. Your first thought might be, no, that's too much. It will fall. But maybe, just maybe, that new way of stacking the blocks is actually better, stronger, or allows for a different kind of tower to be built. Books are like that new idea for stacking blocks. They can introduce a different way of thinking about how society should be built, how people should be treated, or what is true. Sometimes, the initial reaction is fear or discomfort, calling it too much because it forces us to rethink our own carefully stacked towers of belief. So, when a book is called too much, it often means it's powerful enough to make us feel something deeply, to question, or to grow. It means it has the potential to shift our perspective, even if that shift feels uncomfortable at first. These books, the ones that push boundaries and challenge the norm, are not dangerous because they are bad. They are often called too much because they are brave. They invite us into conversations that matter, helping us see the world with new eyes, and asking us to consider how we might build a better future, one idea at a time. They remind us that true understanding often begins right where our comfort ends. The courage to write, the courage to read. Have you ever thought about what it means to be brave? We often imagine courage as a knight or a superhero. But courage isn't always loud. Sometimes, the deepest bravery is quiet. It lives between words, on the pages of a book, and within your own mind. This is the courage to write and the courage to read. Writing means taking your thoughts and beliefs, laying them out for the world. Imagine crafting an idea you believe needs to be heard, to then release it, knowing some might disagree or even be angry, takes incredible bravery. It's like standing on a stage, sharing your most honest self. That willingness to be judged is courage. Throughout history, writers have shown this bravery. They wrote about freedom, equality, and science, even when beliefs were held tightly. These writers knew their words might lead to trouble. They might be ridiculed, ignored, or punished. But they wrote anyway. They felt a need to share what they saw, understood, and dreamed for the world. Their pens became their voices, speaking truth to power, often at great personal risk. And then there's the courage to read. You might think, reading? That's not brave. But consider this. When you open a book, especially one that challenges your worldview, you step into a new place. You invite new, perhaps uncomfortable ideas into your mind. It takes courage to truly listen, to consider perspectives that might shake your own beliefs. It's like trying a new food. You've eaten safe, familiar things, but someone offers you something new, different. It might feel scary to take that first bite, to explore an unknown flavor. But if you're brave enough, you might discover a new favorite dish. Reading a challenging book is similar. You're trying a new flavor of thought. You're allowing yourself to be changed, even if it feels uncertain. Sometimes, people try to stop others from reading certain books. They ban books from libraries or schools. Why? Because the ideas in those books are seen as dangerous. Not dangerous like a weapon, but dangerous to comfortable ways of thinking. They challenge power, expose unfairness, or simply offer a different way of seeing things. When a book is banned, it's often because someone fears the courage of the writer and the reader. They fear open minds and questioning. But here's the thing. Those banned books, once silenced, often hold powerful lessons. They are voices that dared to speak up, even when difficult. And when we choose to read them, we choose to be brave. We explore new ideas, think deeply, and form our own understandings. We trust ourselves with different viewpoints, even if they make us think hard or feel uncomfortable. So, next time you read, remember this quiet bravery. Remember the courage it took for someone to write those words, to share their vision. Remember your courage to read them, to open your mind, and let those words challenge, inspire, or make you think. Every page turned is an act of courage, a step into understanding yourself and the vast world around you. It's a journey we take together, writer and reader, hand in hand, through history, and the future. That journey, with all its questions and discoveries, is one of the bravest adventures you can ever embark upon. What makes a book dangerous? Have you ever thought about why some books are called dangerous? It's a strange idea, isn't it? A book just sits there on a shelf. It's made of paper and ink. It can't hurt you physically. But for hundreds of years, certain books have been seen as powerful enough to threaten governments, change societies, and even get people into serious trouble. So, what kind of danger are we talking about when we say a book is dangerous? It's not the kind of danger that makes you run or hide. It's the danger of ideas. Books are filled with ideas. They carry thoughts, questions, stories, and beliefs from one person to another, across time and across miles. And here's the thing. Some ideas are so powerful, so different from what people are used to, that they can feel like a real threat to those who hold power. Imagine a time long ago when almost everyone believed the sun revolved around the earth. That was the accepted truth. It was what people were taught. Then, a book comes along, filled with careful observations and math, saying, actually, it's the other way around. The earth goes around the sun. That idea wasn't just interesting. It was a huge challenge to everything people thought they knew. It also challenged the authority of the groups who taught them those things. People who shared such new ideas, or even wrote about them, faced serious problems because their ideas were seen as a danger to the existing way of life and thought. Think about a tiny seed. When you hold a seed in your hand, it seems so small and harmless. It can't do anything on its own, really. But inside that tiny seed is the blueprint for a mighty tree. That tree can grow tall and strong. Its roots can break through hard ground. Its branches can provide shade for generations, and its fruit can feed many. The seed itself isn't dangerous, but the potential within it is enormous, strong enough to change the very landscape around it. A book is a lot like that seed. It might seem quiet and harmless on a shelf, but the ideas inside it hold the potential for immense growth and change. Those in power, whether they are kings, religious leaders, or even just what most people believe, sometimes see these seeds of ideas as threats. Why? Because ideas can make people ask questions. They can make people look at old problems in brand new ways. They can inspire people to speak up, to demand change, or to think differently about how the world works. If enough people start thinking differently, the old ways of doing things, the old rules, or the old leaders might not last. This is exactly why books get banned. It's not about the paper or the ink. It's about stopping the spread of those seed ideas. It's an attempt to control what people think, to keep things the way they are, or to prevent uncomfortable truths from being shared. Throughout history, powerful groups have tried to silence voices and hide ideas they found threatening, because they understood the quiet, powerful force of a book. So, when we talk about a dangerous book, we're really talking about a book with powerful ideas. Ideas that challenge, that provoke thought, that inspire. These books invite us to open our minds, to question what we hear, and to see the world from many different angles. They ask us to think for ourselves, which is one of the most powerful and important things any of us can learn to do. A dangerous book, then, isn't something to fear. Instead, it's often a treasure, a hidden key to understanding ourselves and the world around us. It's an invitation for us to grow, just like that tiny seed becomes a mighty tree. The stories that stick with you. Have you ever read a story that just stayed with you? One that you kept thinking about long after you closed the book? Maybe it was a character you couldn't forget, or an idea that made you see the world a little differently. It's like a song that gets stuck in your head, but instead of just a melody, it's a whole feeling, a new way of looking at things. But here's the thing. Why do some stories stick while others just fade away? It's not always about a thrilling plot or a happy ending. Often, the stories that truly stick with us are the ones that challenge us. They might make us feel uncomfortable, or question things we thought we already knew. They push against what's easy or expected. These are the books that dig deep into big ideas like fairness or freedom, or what it means to be truly brave. They talk about people who stand up for themselves, or for what's right, even when it's hard. Think about it like this. Your brain is always trying to make sense of the world. And sometimes, A story comes along that offers a new puzzle piece, or even a whole new way to see the puzzle itself. When that happens, your mind really grabs onto it. It's like when you're trying to figure out a tricky math problem, and then suddenly, the answer just clicks. That aha moment. That feeling of understanding something new, that's what makes knowledge and ideas really stick. Historically, the stories that stick the most have often been the ones that powerful people tried to silence. Why? Because they understood how much power a story could have. If a book could make enough people question unfair rules, or dream about a more just world, that could be a huge problem for those who wanted to keep things exactly as they were. So, banning books wasn't just about the words on the page. It was about trying to control ideas, to stop people from thinking in new ways. It was about fear that a story might give someone courage, or inspire them to speak up. You see this in small ways every day. Maybe you tried a new food that seemed strange at first, but then it became your favorite. Or you listened to someone share a difficult experience, and suddenly, you understood their feelings in a way you hadn't before. It changes you, just a little bit. That's what these sticky stories do. They act like a seed planted in your mind. Once it's there, it starts to grow. It might sprout new questions, or new feelings, or even new actions. The stories that stick are the ones that connect with something real inside us. They remind us of our own struggles, our own hopes, our own desire to understand the world and our place in it. They show us that we are not alone, that others have felt these same big feelings, or faced similar challenges. And even when someone tries to hide these stories, they often find a way to live on. They become whispers, then shouts, passed from person to person, generation to generation. So, when you encounter a story that truly sticks with you, remember its power. It's not just words. It's a connection. It's a challenge. It's an invitation to think more deeply, to feel more fully, and to perhaps even imagine a future different from the past. And that in itself is a very quiet but very real kind of bravery. Lessons from the Forbidden Shelf. Have you ever wondered why some stories, some books, are kept hidden away? Why are certain words, certain ideas, sometimes made off limits, almost like forbidden fruit? It's a strange thought, isn't it? That a book, just ink on paper, could be seen as dangerous enough to be locked up or even burned. But throughout history, this has happened a lot. And when we look at these forbidden shelves, we learn some really deep lessons about the world and about ourselves. See, a banned book isn't just a book someone didn't like. It's often a book that challenged something powerful. Maybe it challenged how a government ruled, or how a society thought about right and wrong. Sometimes, a book gets banned because it asks uncomfortable questions, or because it shows a side of life that people in charge don't want others to see. It might talk about freedom when people are oppressed, or equality when some are treated unfairly. It might just make people think differently, and sometimes thinking differently can feel like a threat to those who want things to stay exactly as they are. Imagine you're in a science class, and for years, everyone has been taught that the Earth is flat. It's what all the old books say. Then, one day, someone writes a new book. This book shows evidence that the Earth is actually round. It gives examples, draws pictures, and explains why the old ideas might be wrong. Now, if the people in charge really wanted everyone to believe the Earth was flat forever, what might they do to this new book? They might try to ban it. They might say it's dangerous, or wrong, or even silly. But why? Because the idea of a round Earth changes everything. It changes how you navigate, how you think about the sky, how you see your place in the universe. It makes people question what they thought they knew. That's a lot like why real books get banned. They offer a new way of seeing, a different truth, or a challenge to what is commonly accepted. They might introduce ideas about kindness and understanding that go against hate, or they might speak up for people who have been silenced. Sometimes, they tell stories that are sad or hard, but they help us understand big feelings and complicated parts of being human. They make us think about fairness, about what's true, and about what it means to be free. Here's the thing. When a book is banned, it doesn't usually disappear forever. Instead, it often becomes even more interesting to people. Our minds are built to be curious. When someone tells us, "You can't read this," our first thought often becomes, why not? What's inside? It's like being told not to peek behind a curtain. You just want to know what's there even more. That curiosity is a powerful force. It drives us to seek out what is hidden, to question what is told, and to form our own opinions. So, the biggest lesson from the Forbidden Shelf isn't just about the books themselves. It's about what happens when people try to control ideas. It teaches us that ideas are incredibly strong. You can burn a book, but you can't burn an idea. You can hide a story, but the desire to know and to understand keeps living on. These banned books remind us of the power of words, yes, but also of the unstoppable strength of the human mind. Its ability to question, to imagine, and to seek out truth, no matter how much someone tries to keep it a secret. It's a quiet reminder to always be curious, to always read widely, and to always think for yourself. Why we still talk about these books. Have you ever wondered why we still talk about secrets? Not just whispered secrets between friends, but big, old secrets. Ones that powerful people tried to bury long ago. It's like some ideas, once they're out there, just refuse to die. They keep bubbling up, even if someone tried really hard to push them down. That's a bit like why we still talk about banned books. These aren't just old stories. They are books that, at some point in history, someone in charge decided people shouldn't read. Maybe the books said something that challenged a ruler, or questioned a popular belief, or described a way of life that made others uncomfortable. The people who banned them often thought that if they just hid these books away, the ideas inside them would disappear. But here's the thing. Ideas are tricky. They're not like a broken toy you can throw away. They're more like seeds. Imagine you have a tiny seed in your hand. If you plant it, even in a small crack in the pavement, it might grow into a strong plant. Even if someone tries to cover it with a rock or stomp on it, that plant might still find a way to reach for the sun. Its roots go deep. Ideas work a lot like that. Once an idea is written down in a book, even if that book is locked away or burned, the idea itself can spread. Someone reads it, tells a friend, and then that friend thinks about it. And soon, the idea is alive in many minds. It becomes part of the shared human story. Banning a book is often a sign of fear. It means that the ideas in that book were so powerful, so thought-provoking, that someone felt threatened by them. It wasn't about protecting people from bad words. It was about stopping people from thinking differently, from questioning the way things were. So, when we talk about these books today, we're not just talking about old stories. We're talking about moments in history when people stood up for their thoughts, or when powerful groups tried to control what others believed. These books become like a kind of mirror. They show us not just what was important back then, but also what struggles and ideas we still wrestle with today. They make us think about freedom, the freedom to read, to think, to speak. They show us that throughout time, brave writers have put their thoughts on paper, even when it was dangerous. And those thoughts, once shared, found their way into the world and shaped it, even when others tried to erase them. So, when we pick up a book that was once banned, we are not just reading words on a page. We are connecting with a powerful echo from the past. We are listening to voices that refuse to be silenced. These books remind us that ideas are incredibly tough, and that the desire to think freely is a deep and lasting part of being human. They teach us that even if a book is forbidden, its truth, its heart, can still shine through the years, inviting us to understand, to question, and to grow. The battle over what you read. Have you ever thought about why some books are always easy to find, on every shelf, while others seem to disappear? Or has anyone ever told you that a certain story, a certain idea, or even just a piece of information was not for you? Maybe it was too grown up, too complicated, or simply wrong to read. This idea, this power to decide what others can and cannot read, is what we call a battle over books. It's a fight that has been happening for centuries, quietly, but with huge importance. Here's the thing. When we talk about a banned book, it means someone or some group decided that book should not be available. Often, this happens in schools, libraries, or even entire countries. They might say the book has bad words, or deals with difficult topics, or perhaps challenges ideas that are widely accepted. But if you look deeper, it's rarely just about the words on the page. It's often about power, about shaping what people think, and about guiding how a society understands the world. Imagine our world, all of human history and experience, is like a giant, complex puzzle. Every book, every story, every idea is like a piece of that puzzle. Each piece adds to the bigger picture. It helps us understand ourselves, others, and how things work. Some pieces are bright and easy to place. Others are dark or strangely shaped, making you think about where they fit. Now, what happens if someone decides to take away some of those puzzle pieces? What if certain ones are put into a box labeled, "Do not touch"? Maybe those pieces show a part of the picture that some people don't like. Maybe they show a different way of seeing things, or they challenge an idea that is comfortable and familiar. If those pieces are missing, the overall picture we see becomes incomplete. It might even become distorted, making us believe the picture is something it's not, simply because we don't have all the information. This isn't a new idea. For thousands of years, people in power kings, religious leaders, governments have tried to control what information gets out. They understood that if you control the stories people hear, you control how they think. And if you control how they think, you control how they act. It's a way of protecting what they believe is right, or sometimes just protecting their own power. But here's why this matters to you. Books aren't just paper. They are pathways to different minds, times, and experiences. They let you step into someone else's shoes, explore new ideas, and ask questions you didn't know you had. When a book is banned, it closes off one of those paths. It limits your journey. It quietly suggests there are thoughts you shouldn't think, questions you shouldn't ask. The quiet truth is, the most powerful thing you can do is think for yourself. To truly understand the world, you need to see as many puzzle pieces as possible. You need to hear different voices, even those that challenge your beliefs. It's not about agreeing with every book. It's about having the chance to read it, consider its ideas, and make up your own mind. The battle over what you read is, in its deepest sense, a battle for your own mind. It's for your freedom to learn and grow. It's about ensuring the grand puzzle of human experience stays open for you to explore, piece by piece, question by question. How one book can spark a movement. Have you ever stopped to think about how one tiny seed can grow into a giant tree, or how a single raindrop can start a flood? It seems impossible, doesn't it? But here's the thing. Big changes often begin with something very, very small. Sometimes that small thing is a book. Imagine a book. It's just paper and ink, right? It sits quietly on a shelf. But inside those pages are ideas. Sometimes these ideas are so powerful, so true, or so challenging that they don't stay quiet for long. They spread. They get into people's minds, into their conversations, and into their hearts. When enough people start to share those same ideas, when they feel the same deep truth or the same strong question, that's when something amazing happens. That's when a movement begins. A movement is like a powerful river. It's when a lot of people, perhaps from different places and different lives, start flowing in the same direction. They believe in the same cause, or they want the same change. They decide to act together, to make their voices heard. And often, the first drop that starts this river is a single book. Think about it like this. Imagine you're at school, and someone shares a really great idea for a project. At first, maybe just a few friends like it. But then they talk to others, and those people get excited too. Soon, lots of students are buzzing about it, and before you know it, the whole class is working towards that one idea. A book can do that, but on a much, much bigger scale, across towns, across countries, and even across time. For hundreds of years, books have been doing exactly this. They aren't just entertainment. They're like messengers, carrying thoughts and feelings from one person to countless others. Sometimes, a book dares to question something everyone has always accepted. It might show a problem no one wanted to see, or imagine a better way of living. And when people read these words, they realize they're not alone in their feelings. They start to understand things differently. Their individual thoughts connect, like tiny sparks in the dark, until they create a powerful flame. And that's why some books get banned. People in power, people who like things just the way they are, sometimes get scared of these ideas. They see the power of a book to unite people, to make them question, to make them want change. They worry that the ripples from that book might become waves that challenge their authority. So, they try to stop the book from being read, hoping to stop the movement before it can even truly begin. They believe that if they remove the book, the idea will just disappear. But here's what history shows us. Ideas are hard to kill. They find ways to live on, even in whispers, even in secret. It makes you think, doesn't it? That a stack of paper, bound together, can hold such incredible power. It's not magic, but something close to it. It's the power of shared human thought and feeling. It's the quiet strength of one person's deepest beliefs reaching out and connecting with another's process. And every time you open a book, especially one that once dared to challenge the world, you're not just reading words. You're connecting to a history of ideas. You're becoming part of that quiet, powerful stream of thought that has always moved the world forward. And that's a truly profound thing to be a part of. The books that broke the rules. Have you ever wondered why some books, just collections of words on pages, can cause so much trouble? Why would someone in power ever want to stop people from reading something? It seems strange, doesn't it? But for centuries, certain books have been seen as dangerous. Not because they held weapons or spells, but because they held ideas. Ideas so powerful, they were believed to be rule breakers. When we talk about the books that broke the rules, we aren't talking about books that were naughty or disrespectful for no reason. Instead, these are books that challenged the way people thought, the way society was organized, or the beliefs that everyone was supposed to hold. They were brave enough to suggest new possibilities, to question old truths, or to show a different side of life that some people preferred to ignore. Imagine a time when everyone believed the earth was flat, and then a book came along saying, actually, it's round. That book would have been a rule breaker, not just of geography, but of everyone's comfortable view of the world. For those in charge, new ideas can feel like a threat. If a book makes people think differently, they might start questioning other things too, like the rules they live by, or the leaders they follow. So, people in power sometimes try to silence these ideas. They try to make the books disappear by banning them from schools, libraries, or even from being printed at all. They hope that if no one can read these thoughts, they will just vanish. It's like trying to put a blanket over a campfire. The flame might be hidden for a moment, but the heat and light are still there, trying to escape. And often, they do. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine you and your friends have always played a certain game with a set of rules everyone knows. But then, one of your friends invents a new way to play, with different rules that make the game more exciting or fair for everyone. Some people might resist this new way. They might say, no, that's not how we play. That breaks the rules. They might even try to stop you from playing the new version. Why? Because it challenges their comfort zone, the way things have always been. It makes them think differently, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. But often, that new way of playing, the rule-breaking way, ends up making the game better for everyone in the long run. These books are like that new game. They dared to see the world differently, to question what was accepted, and to imagine a future that might not have seemed possible before. They reminded people to look closely, to think for themselves, and to stand up for what they believed was right. Even when they were hidden away, their words whispered through generations, finding new readers, sparking new conversations. These are the books that, despite being banned, kept on teaching us. They show us that true strength isn't always in following every rule, but sometimes it's in the quiet courage to explore new ideas, to challenge the unquestioned, and to embrace the rich, complex tapestry of human thought. And that's why their stories, and the stories of their struggles, continue to shape our world. Finding freedom in forbidden pages. Have you ever been told you can't do something? Or can't read something? Maybe it made you even more curious, right? Like a secret door you suddenly want to open, or a hidden path you just have to explore. So, imagine a book. Not just any book, but one that someone, somewhere, decided you shouldn't read. They put it on a list, saying it's forbidden, or maybe even removed it from school libraries. These are called banned books. But here's the thing. Often, The very books people try to hide are the ones that hold the most power. They offer a kind of freedom, not freedom to run wild or break rules, but a deeper, quieter freedom of the mind. They let you think for yourself. They let you see the world from different angles. Why would anyone ban a book? Usually, it's because the ideas inside are powerful. Maybe they challenge old ways of thinking, or they share a story that makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes, it's about control. If you control what people read, you might think you can control what they think. It's like someone trying to choose your thoughts for you. But real freedom isn't about someone else picking your thoughts. It's about having access to all kinds of thoughts, even the ones that feel a little bit scary or different. Think about a maze. You're walking through it, following the path laid out for you. It's safe. It's clear. But then you see a small opening in the wall, half hidden by vines. It looks like a shortcut, or maybe a path to a completely new part of the maze. Your first instinct might be to explore it, even though it's not the official path. Banned books are like those hidden openings. They show you paths your mind might not have taken otherwise. They introduce you to ideas that challenge the main path, helping you see the whole maze, not just the one section someone wants you to walk through. Or, think about a chef who only uses certain ingredients because they're safe and common. But then they discover a new spice, maybe one that's considered strange or too bold. When they add it, the whole dish changes, becomes richer, more complex, more interesting. Banned books are like those bold ingredients for your mind. They add flavor and depth to your understanding of the world. These books don't just tell stories. They teach you how to ask questions. They introduce you to characters who struggle, who overcome, who think differently. They might show you parts of history that were uncomfortable, or paint a picture of a future that feels surprising. When you read a banned book, you're not just reading words on a page. You're stepping into someone else's shoes. You're seeing the world through their eyes. And this helps you build your own understanding of right and wrong, fair and unfair, brave and fearful. You learn to listen to different voices, not just the loudest ones or the ones everyone agrees with. So, finding freedom in forbidden pages means choosing to explore. It means being brave enough to read ideas that might make you think hard, or even disagree. It means understanding that knowledge isn't about being told what to believe, but about having the chance to learn and decide for yourself. It's about building a mind that is open, strong, and ready to understand all the different stories the world has to tell. When you read these books, you're not just breaking a rule. You're building a stronger, more independent self. And that's a kind of freedom that no one can ever truly take away. Why some books never die? Have you ever wondered why some stories, some ideas, just won't go away? Even when powerful people try their hardest to make them disappear, these books, these thoughts, seem to have a life of their own. It's like they're echoes, soft but persistent, that keep returning until they're finally heard. Here's the thing. Trying to ban a book is like trying to stop the wind. You can close your windows, you can shut every door, but the wind is still out there, moving, shaping the world. Books, especially the banned ones, often carry powerful truths or new ways of seeing things. And truth, like water, always finds a crack to seep through. It finds its way, no matter how many walls are built against it. Think about it this way. Imagine you have a really important secret, but it's a secret that many people would benefit from knowing. You try to keep it hidden, maybe because someone told you not to share it, but perhaps you whisper it to one trusted friend. That friend, seeing how important it is, tells another. Soon, without even trying, your secret starts to spread. It's no longer just a secret, it's a message, and it has found its way out into the world. That's a bit like what happens with powerful ideas in books. When a book is banned, it often means someone in power doesn't want its ideas to spread. Maybe the book challenges the way things are done. Maybe it makes people think differently about fairness, or freedom, or who gets to make the rules. Sometimes, the ideas are just too uncomfortable for those in charge. They think if they hide the book, the idea will simply vanish. But here's what actually happens. Banning a book often makes more people curious about it. It gives the book a special, forbidden glow. People want to know what's so dangerous inside those pages that it needs to be hidden. This isn't a new idea. For hundreds of years, People have tried to control what others read or think. In the past, scientists were punished for saying the Earth revolved around the sun. That idea was seen as dangerous, even though it was true. But no matter how many times a thinker like Galileo was told to be quiet, the planets kept moving. The truth of their movement was stronger than any rule or punishment. And eventually, the truth won out. It's the same with books that speak about human rights, or unfair treatment, or the dream of a better world. These aren't just ink on paper. They are echoes of human experience. They are questions we ask ourselves, and answers we seek. They tap into something very deep inside all of us, our desire to understand, to be free, and to live with dignity. These are not ideas that can truly be locked away. Consider a dandelion. You can pull it out of the ground, chop off its bright yellow head, but often its roots are surprisingly deep and strong. And even if you manage to get those roots, its fluffy seeds might have already floated away on the wind, ready to sprout somewhere new. A powerful idea in a book is like that dandelion seed. It might land in someone's mind and begin to grow, even in the toughest soil. It might take root in a different country, or a different generation, but it will grow. So, why do some books never die? It's because the human spirit never stops asking questions. It never stops dreaming of justice. It never stops searching for truth. A book can be burned, hidden, or ignored, but its words, its ideas, live on in the minds of those who read them, and in the hearts of those who share them. They live in our conversations, in our protests, and in the quiet moments when we challenge our own beliefs. These books stand as quiet monuments to the belief that some ideas are too important, too vital, to ever truly be silenced. The big questions banned books ask. Have you ever wondered why some books are considered dangerous? Why would someone want to stop you, or anyone, from reading a story or learning about an idea? Here's the thing. Often, the books that get banned are the ones that ask the deepest, most uncomfortable questions. They're not just telling a story, they're making you think about how the world works and sometimes how it should work. These are what we call big questions. They aren't simple questions you can look up in a textbook, like what is the capital of France? Instead, they are questions about life itself. What is fair? What does it mean to be free? Who gets to decide what is true? Is it right to challenge power? Can one person really make a difference? These are the kinds of thoughts that can spark a fire in your mind. For a long, long time, people in power have tried to control what others think. They might worry that new ideas will upset the way things are. So, they ban books that suggest different ways of living, different beliefs, or different types of fairness. But the problem is, when you ban a book, you're not really getting rid of the question it asks. You're just trying to keep people from thinking about it. Imagine for a moment you're trying to build something really important, like a strong bridge. To make it truly strong, you have to test it. You have to ask hard questions. Will it hold up in a storm? Can it carry heavy trucks? You can't just ignore those questions or pretend they don't exist, because then your bridge might fail. In the same way, the ideas that shape our society, our rules, and our ways of life also need to be tested. They need to be questioned. Think about a time you learned something new in science class that totally changed how you saw the world. Maybe it was learning that the Earth actually goes around the sun, when for thousands of years, people thought the sun went around the Earth. That idea, that simple fact, was once considered very dangerous. It challenged everything people believed about their place in the universe. It made them feel uncomfortable because it meant they had to rethink so much. But asking that question, does the Earth really stay still? Led to massive leaps in our understanding. It made us smarter. Banned books are often like those big scientific questions. They might show us different kinds of families, different ways of thinking about justice, or what it feels like to be an outsider. They might challenge ideas about what's normal or right. When you read a book like that, it can feel a little strange or even uncomfortable at first, because it's pushing against what you already believe or what you've been taught. But that discomfort is often a sign of growth. It's your mind stretching, making space for new possibilities. These books don't always give easy answers. Sometimes, they just lay out the question and let you wrestle with it. They invite you to step into someone else's shoes, to see the world from a different angle, and to consider problems you might never have thought about before. They challenge you to look beyond the surface, to dig deeper than what you're told. So, when a book is banned, it's not because it's silly or worthless. It's often because it holds a powerful question. A question that someone, somewhere, is afraid for you to ask. But the true strength of a person, and of a society, comes from being brave enough to ask those big questions, even the uncomfortable ones. It's about being open to different ideas, learning from them, and using them to form your own thoughts. And that, in the end, is how we truly grow and build a more thoughtful world. Your right to read. Protecting stories. Have you ever stopped to think about what it means to choose what you read? To pick up any book or article and just read it? It might seem like a simple thing you do every day without much thought. But that freedom, that quiet act of turning pages, is actually a really important right. People have fought hard to protect it over time. This idea, your right to read, means you have the freedom to access information, ideas, and stories. No one else decides for you what's okay or not okay to know. It's about being able to explore all sorts of thoughts, even ones that are different from your own, or perhaps a little challenging. Imagine if, every time you wanted to learn something new, someone stood over your shoulder, picking out only the parts they thought you should know. You wouldn't get the whole story, would you? You'd only get one side, one narrow view. That's why this right matters so much. It's about having the complete picture. Think of your mind like a vast, growing garden. Every book you read, every new idea you encounter, is like planting a different seed. Some seeds grow into strong trees of knowledge. Others might become bright, colorful flowers of imagination. And some could be tiny, curious plants that make you think differently. If someone only let you plant certain kinds of seeds, your garden wouldn't be as rich or diverse. It wouldn't be able to grow in all the amazing ways it could. The right to read means you can plant any seed you want, allowing your mind to grow freely in all directions. Historically, this hasn't always been easy. For a long time, powerful people tried to control what others could read. They believed that if people read certain books, they might start questioning authority or challenging old ways. They worried new ideas could cause trouble. So, they would ban books, hide them, or even burn them. This was their way of trying to stop thoughts from spreading. But people kept finding ways to read, to share books in secret, and to push for the freedom to learn and think for themselves. Slowly, over hundreds of years, the right to explore ideas through reading became accepted in many parts of the world. It's like building a big puzzle. If you only have some of the pieces, you can't see the whole picture. You might think you understand what the puzzle is about, but without all the parts, your understanding will be incomplete, or even wrong. Books are like those puzzle pieces. Each one offers a new perspective, a different part of the big, complicated picture of human experience. When a book is banned, it's like someone is hiding a puzzle piece from you. They're telling you that you don't need that piece, or that the picture is better without it. But how can you truly understand the world if parts of the story are kept from you? Protecting your right to read isn't just about protecting books. It's about protecting your own mind. It's about your ability to think critically and your freedom to form your own beliefs. It means no one can decide for you what is true or what is right. Every time you choose a book, you're not just reading words. You're stepping into new worlds, considering different ideas, and building a stronger, more independent mind. And that, in a world that needs open minds, is a truly powerful thing. It means we can all contribute to a fuller understanding of what it means to be human. Stories that built a better world. Have you ever stopped to think about how a simple story, just words on a page, can actually change the world? It sounds like a big idea, maybe even impossible. But here's the thing. Stories have always been one of humanity's most powerful tools. They aren't just for entertainment, like a movie you watch on a Friday night. They are how we pass down what we know, what we believe, and what we dream of. Imagine our earliest ancestors, gathered around a fire. They didn't have books or television, so they told stories. Stories about hunting, about the stars, about heroes and villains. These tales taught them how to survive, what was right and wrong, and how to understand their place in the world. They created a shared understanding, a way for everyone in the group to feel connected and to learn from the experiences of others, even if those experiences were just imagined. And that's how it works today, too. A story lets you step into someone else's shoes, even if that person lived hundreds of years ago or is completely made up. You get to see the world through their eyes, feel what they feel, and understand their struggles and triumphs. This isn't just a nice feeling. It's how we build understanding. It's how we learn to have compassion for people who are different from us. And that understanding, that sense of shared humanity, is the first step toward building a better world. Think about a time you read a book or watched a show where a character faced a really tough problem, maybe something unfair. You rooted for them, right? You felt their frustration, their anger, or their hope. And when they finally made a difference, you felt it too. That feeling, that connection, can spark something in us. It can make us want to do something about unfairness in our own lives or in the wider world. It shows us that change is possible and that even one person or one idea can make a huge difference. Consider how a single book might present an idea that was completely new or even shocking at the time it was written. Maybe it talked about treating everyone equally when that wasn't common, or questioned old rules that seemed unfair. At first, some people might have been afraid of these new ideas. They might have even tried to stop others from reading the book, to keep the old ways in place. But here's what happened. Those stories, those ideas, kept spreading. They traveled from person to person, sparking conversations, making people think differently, and slowly, over time, those conversations grew into movements, into changes in laws, into a different way of seeing the world. It's like how a tiny seed, pushed by the wind, lands in new soil and grows into a mighty tree. The story is the seed, and your mind is the soil. When you read, you're planting those seeds of ideas, understanding, and empathy. And as those seeds grow, they don't just change you. They change the world around you. One thought, one conversation, one act of kindness at a time. It's a slow, quiet process, but it's incredibly powerful. And that's why, throughout history, stories have been banned. Because those who fear change know the power a story holds. But the truth is, a story, once told, can never truly be unwritten from the human heart. It lingers, it whispers, and it inspires. The books they tried to silence. Have you ever been told not to do something, and suddenly that's all you want to do? Like when someone whispers a secret and then says, "But don't tell anyone." What happens? You usually want to know that secret even more. You might even feel a strong urge to share it. Well, in a way, that's a little like what happens when someone tries to ban a book. Banning a book isn't about burning it or making it disappear completely. It's more about trying to control what people think. It's about trying to stop an idea from spreading. Imagine if a teacher told you a certain book was off limits, that you weren't allowed to read it. What would your first thought be? Likely, why? What's in that book they don't want me to see? This natural curiosity is part of why banning books often backfires. For centuries, people in power have tried to silence ideas they found threatening. Maybe an idea challenged how society was set up. Maybe it questioned the rules of a powerful leader or a popular belief. Sometimes, these ideas simply made people uncomfortable. So, to keep things the way they were, or to stop people from thinking for themselves, they would try to get rid of the books that held those ideas. They'd remove them from schools, from libraries, even make it illegal to own them. Think of it like this. If you try to hold a beach ball underwater, it fights back, right? The harder you push it down, the more it wants to pop back up. Ideas are a bit like that beach ball. When someone tries to push them down, to hide them, or to silence them, those ideas often gain more power. They become more interesting, more desired. People start asking questions. They wonder what's so special or so dangerous about these forbidden thoughts. History shows us this again and again. Books that were once banned or considered too dangerous often became some of the most important books ever written. They sparked revolutions, changed the way we think about science, or helped us understand ourselves better. Sometimes, the very act of trying to suppress a book made it famous. People would pass copies around secretly, sharing the forbidden words, making sure the ideas survived. These books often become symbols of freedom and the power of thought. So, when we talk about the books they tried to silence, we're not just talking about old pieces of paper. We're talking about whispers that grew into shouts, about ideas that refused to die, and about the human spirit's constant need to question, to learn, and to grow. These books, even when hidden away, kept speaking to people, guiding them, and helping shape the world we live in today. They remind us that true power doesn't come from silencing voices, but from listening to them, even the ones that challenge us the most. When books are called too much, have you ever thought about why some ideas or even some stories might make people uncomfortable? It's a strange thing, isn't it? We often think of books as friends, as gateways to other worlds. But sometimes, a book becomes more than just a story. It becomes something some people call too much. What does it mean for a book to be too much? It doesn't mean the book is too long or too hard to read. It means the ideas inside it are seen as challenging, as upsetting the usual way of things. Imagine a quiet pond where everyone expects the surface to stay smooth and still. Then, a book comes along, like a stone thrown into that pond, creating ripples. Those ripples can be small, just a little change in thought. Or they can be big waves, making people question everything they thought they knew. When a book is called too much, it's often because it dares to create those waves. It holds a mirror up to society, showing things that people might not want to see. Or it offers a new path that feels risky. Think about the way the world used to be. For a very long time, most people believed the earth was the center of everything, and the sun revolved around us. That was the accepted truth. Then, scientists like Copernicus and Galileo came along with new ideas, showing that the earth actually moves around the sun. This was a massive change in thinking, and for many, it was too much to accept. It challenged powerful religious beliefs and a way of understanding the universe that had existed for centuries. People were scared of this new truth. They felt it threatened their entire world. Galileo was even put under house arrest for his ideas. His books were essentially banned, or at least heavily controlled, because they brought forth a truth that was considered too disruptive, too challenging for the time. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're trying to build a really tall tower with building blocks. You've been taught one specific way to stack them, making sure it's strong and stable. But then, someone comes along and suggests a completely different way to stack the blocks, a way that looks wobbly at first, or maybe even wrong. Your first thought might be, no, that's too much. It will fall. But maybe, just maybe, that new way of stacking the blocks is actually better, stronger, or allows for a different kind of tower to be built. Books are like that new idea for stacking blocks. They can introduce a different way of thinking about how society should be built, how people should be treated, or what is true. Sometimes, the initial reaction is fear or discomfort, calling it too much because it forces us to rethink our own carefully stacked towers of belief. So, when a book is called too much, it often means it's powerful enough to make us feel something deeply, to question, or to grow. It means it has the potential to shift our perspective, even if that shift feels uncomfortable at first. These books, the ones that push boundaries and challenge the norm, are not dangerous because they are bad. They are often called too much because they are brave. They invite us into conversations that matter, helping us see the world with new eyes, and asking us to consider how we might build a better future, one idea at a time. They remind us that true understanding often begins right where our comfort ends.